Chapter 9:15. A thin figure dressed in linen took advantage of the darkening sky to sneak down Deer Terrace Pavilion. He followed the inconspicuous corners of Deer Terrace Pavilion's tall pavilion and carefully avoided the patrolling guards as he walked out of the palace. When he reached a place where the guards couldn't see him, he lifted his skirt and ran forward with his bare feet. In fact, it was a luxury for a slave to even run. There was no thick layer of humus like the deciduous forest, and there was no soft soil like the plains. In the royal palace's garden, it was filled with shrubs, protruding tree roots, and stones. If he ran a bit faster, he would hurt his feet. Needless to say, in order to prevent slaves and untouchables from sneaking into the garden, the King of Righteous Canal ordered people to scatter a lot of sharp gravel here. Anyway, the nobles and guards were wearing shoes made of felt, which were warm and comfortable. They could run freely on the gravel ground, catching up with slaves who could not run fast like the wind and chopping off their heads. But that figure did not seem to care about the stones that could hurt his feet. He staggered as he ran and found a hidden place. There was already a war hounds man wearing a guard's uniform waiting there. When the guard saw that figure, he quickly came forward and said in a low voice, "Did you bring it out?" That thin slave bowed and revealed a fawning expression as he said, "I brought it." His Majesty ordered people to keep a tight watch on them. I had to bribe the guards on duty to get a few of them. They are all freshly picked and dried goods, not the inferior goods that were dropped on the ground and withered to fool you. Take it out for me to see. The guard berated. Seeing his hesitation, he became even more strict. The skinny slave had no choice but to take out the thing wrapped in white cloth from his bosom. It was a dark golden, air-dried datura flower that had shrunk into a ball. It looked like scattered gold grains piled up together, emitting a fragrant aroma. The guard greedily moved in front of the datura flower and took a deep breath. The skinny slave looked distressed as he watched from the side. It was as if this bite had sucked away a millet's weight, but he did not dare to stop it. However, the guard knew the importance of this matter, and quickly wrapped it up again. He weighed the dried datura flower in his hand and sternly said, "Why is there so little this time? It's not even half a caddy. If this datura flower is dried, it would weigh about 2 caddies. Don't tell me you only collected 120 datura flowers in the past few days? Tell me, did you hide it?" This servant wouldn't dare. That skinny little slave's legs softened when she heard it, said in terror, "This servant will never dare to disobey the great shaman's orders, just that His Majesty is very strict, ordered the close guards to make a list of those datura flowers. Every single datura flower that blooms are all numbered. Just a few days ago, His Majesty executed a servant girl for stealing flowers. Now, all the datura flowers are under the control of the palace guards. We have to curry favor with them and bribe them to hide some. We don't dare to steal too much of each stalk. We only pick the ones that slip through the gaps between the fingers of the noble guards." "That fake king is actually so scheming?" the guards said in shock and anger. The matter of smuggling datura flowers from the palace was extremely important. It concerned the great shaman's high regard for him. If this line was tightened, then his future would not be optimistic in the eyes of the great shaman. How could he stand out then? The slave at the side said hatefully, "It's all that merchant's suggestion." He asked His Majesty for the right to monopolize all the datura flowers in Deer Terrace Pavilion and only allow him to sell them. His Majesty was rather shaken and is still considering. The guard sneered when he heard that. These people from the Central Plains will definitely not have an easy time after the great shaman takes the throne. After putting away the dried datura flowers wrapped in white cloth, the guard lowered his head and made a few turns, then went around the palace and went straight to a mansion in the city. After entering the mansion, he handed the things to a shaman and left. That shaman carefully carried the things to the outside of a main hall. Great Shaman Zhu Yen looked at a sorcerer apprentice with a gloomy expression. He poured the dark gold dried datura flowers in a white handkerchief into a golden bottle. The bottle was already half full. The datura flowers inside were like scattered gold, emitting an enchanting dark gold brilliance. Zhu Yan held the golden bottle in his hand and looked at the grand shamans below who were staring greedily at the golden bottle. He laughed angrily and said, "Are you all satisfied with just this bit of witch medicine?" He said sternly, "That fake king has thousands of times more datura witch medicine than this. Are we going to be satisfied with just picking up this bit that he left behind and fight over it like dogs?" Great Shaman Zhu Yan reached in and grabbed a handful of scattered gold. He used a little force in his hand and crushed the withered datura flowers that had shrunk to the size of soybeans into powder. He brought it to his nose and took a deep breath. The dark gold fine powder was sucked into his nose. After a few breaths, Great Shaman Zhu Yan's gaze changed. His murky and dim eyes suddenly brightened, as if a powerful thought had been injected into them. He felt that his telegnosis, which had been dulled by witchcraft, ghosts, darkness, and poison, had become sharp again. His dry and loose skin became sensitive, and his consciousness became clear and scattered. "It's really a magical medicine," Great Shaman Zhu Yan exclaimed. "The ancestors' spirits can use this to communicate with us. It can help us listen and see the traces of the ghosts and gods that are everywhere. With their power, it can make our spiritual sense sharper and sink into the spiritual realm to come into contact with those great, immortal powers. We can see the spirits, the ghosts and God." Zhu Yan sighed and said, "That's why you are so eager and greedy to get your hands on this kind of medicine. You want to concoct it into a medicine that can help you break through to the next level, please the gods, and increase your power. This kind of medicine, when used by wizards, can communicate with the ghosts and God. When used by warriors, they will become stronger and braver. Even those slaves will become smarter when they work. It can increase our intelligence and make us more sensitive to the will of the ghosts and gods. It can even make warriors more agile and powerful, replenishing their energy and stamina. But this kind of natural treasure," Great Shaman Zhu Yan said angrily, "it's actually in the hands of those idiots and trash from the Quan Gao family, in the hands of that fake king of Yichu clan. That fake king even used a stove to bake piles of spirit incense in one of the main halls of the royal palace, letting the fragrance of datura scent fill the entire hall. Together with those stupid, rotten nobles, they would have fun in the main hall, enjoying themselves to their heart's content. It's called the Meeting of Bliss. This helped Yichu King to win over many influential people." Another grand shaman added, "Many clans and nobles are no longer interested in their ancestors and the ghosts and gods. Some nobles who have been to the Meeting of Bliss told me that only by smelling the fragrance of the pure land of bliss and enjoying themselves to their heart's content would they be able to live their lives as nobles. Otherwise, what's the point of living like those slaves and lowly people? And the nobles who have smelled the mandala fragrance, the heavenly flower fragrance from the pure land of bliss, have no doubts about the pure land of bliss. Even the monk who claims that the spirited mountains gods and Buddhas created 3 pure lands that aren't inferior to the pure land of bliss can't convince anyone. Yesterday, he even claimed that his pure land of Amitabha and pure land of bliss also had the infinite datura scent." Another grand shaman said, "Ah." His words caused a wave of sarcastic laughter in this secret chamber. Zhu Yan sneered and said, "You mean that liar who held a bottle and showed everyone his pure land of bliss? Do you think anyone would believe his nonsense?" As soon as Zhu Yan's voice fell, all the laughter stopped immediately. The grand shamans became silent. Zhu Yan laughed a few times and then snorted coldly, "There are still many who believe in it. They don't believe in their ancestors and the ghosts and gods, but they believe in the nonsense of a barbarian from the Guifang West. He talked about the so-called reincarnation and the pure land of bliss in detail, even if these things were just copied by that barbarian a few days ago. Even if he said this today, he would slap his own mouth tomorrow and change his word. But there are still people who believe in him, they believe without a doubt. Maybe we can also fabricate our own Pure Land, a grand shaman said. He plucked up the courage to make this suggestion, expecting to receive some rebuttal from the grand sorcerers, but surprisingly, none of the grand sorcerers spoke. So, after this silent encouragement, the secret chamber began to discuss in whispers how to adapt this saying. Zhu Yen let out a silent sigh. How could he not know that he was digging up his own foundation? But after consuming the datura, Zhu Yen believed deeply in the pure land of bliss where the smallpox grew. He also started to believe in the pure land of bliss, the endless bliss. If there was no pure land of bliss, how would there be such a strange flower like the datura? The aristocrats of Ichu country were shamans. They were all addicted to the unrestrained, carefree happiness after consuming the datura. Hence, they yearned for the pure land of bliss where this strange flower grew. Since the pure land of bliss existed, then after death, who would not want to enter the pure land of bliss and enjoy the endless bliss? This was the reason why the few grand shamans did not dare to obstruct the pure land of bliss. They did not dare to offend the Amitabha Buddha who opened up the pure land of bliss. They too had to die. In the ultimate picture of bliss, Chen Ong looked at the few souls that had just floated over. These were some of the old aristocrats of Ichu City. Every winter was the time when the old people passed through a critical period. Winter was the time when the vitality was restrained and the blood was dormant. Therefore, passing through the winter was like passing a test. After the winter, when the flowers bloomed and the vitality sprouted, most of the old people who were physically old and mentally weak could survive until the next winter. These aristocrats were the old people who could not survive. Thanks to the overflow of the datura in Ichu City, they all bid farewell to the world without pain. They had entered a real hell. Transfer these souls to world number 76 and prepare for the river Styx corruption experiment. Chen Ong smiled slightly, revealing a gentle smile that was comparable to the smile that medical students showed to rabbits and mice. It's just the beginning. There are too few experimental resources. Too few. When the Pure Land sect flourishes and everyone chants the name of Buddha and enters the Pure Land of bliss, my tens of thousands of experimental projects can be started. Chen Ong sighed and said, the quality of these souls that consumed the datura is too poor. I can only use them for the river Styx corruption experiment to study the ecology of the soul after the corruption of the soul. Chapter 9:16. I've made it clear enough for the second treasure. Chen Ong said, everyone is fated with this treasure. If you want to fight for it, you only need to chant, Namo Pa Sunemo Fa Wang Buddha. All merit and karmic retribution will be reaped by all of you. Yi's expression flickered with uncertainty. For a moment, the spectators couldn't tell if this was a blessing or a curse. It was like a hot potato. Before they could make up their minds, Chen Ong said indifferently, the treasures of the first two sects already have owners. Now there's only the last one left and it's fated. This treasure is a spiritual mountain that is worshipped by dozens of countries in a Paragodania province. It's called the Vajra Wheel Mountain, and there's a divine bird on the mountain called the Garuda. The Garuda has a golden body with colorful feathers and a good luck pearl on its head. Its cries are sorrowful, and it eats a poison dragon king and 500 poison dragons every day. Its body is covered in poisonous gas, and only the good luck pearl on its head can ward off the poison. Hunters often lure the Garuda to the Vajra Wheel Mountain and cut off its good luck pearl. It can ward off evil and make poison immune. It's considered a treasure. Hearing Chen Eng's explanation, everyone looked at the strange bird on Chen Eng's shoulder. It had a golden body with colorful feathers and a green tumor on its head. Wasn't this the Garuda that Chen Ong described? When Chen Ong saw how everyone was looking at him, he smiled faintly. Then he looked at the Garuda on his shoulder and said, that's right. The third sex treasure is none other than this Garuda on my shoulder. The good luck pearl on its head has endless uses. Don't think that it's just a tumor right now. Once it's cut off, it can prolong one's life. If one doesn't want to use it, one can moisturize it with warm water. In just a few minutes, the flesh will turn into a jade-like pearl that can ward off all poisons. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva on Chin Ang's shoulder cursed in his heart, "What a good boundless heavenly Lord! So he wanted to sell me out long ago. No wonder he told me to look better." The strange bird that the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had transformed into was naturally no ordinary creature. It was the Garuda bird that Chun Ong had mentioned. Because the bird was one of the 8 Dharma protectors of the Buddha, it naturally chose this form. It did not expect that Chun Ong would take the opportunity to betray it. The sarcoma on its head was indeed a wishful pearl, a Buddhist treasure. The Garuda bird fed on the poisonous dragons. When it was about to die, the dragons spat out their poison, and it could no longer eat it. So it flew up and down 7 times until it reached the peak of the Vajra wheel and died. Because it had fed on dragons for its entire life, its body had accumulated a lot of poisonous gas, and when it died, the poison caused it to self-immolate, leaving behind only a pure azure-glazed heart. This heart was the Rui pearl. Ordinary people would not be able to imagine that the Garuda bird's heart was different from other bird. It was not in its chest, but on its head. It was like a sarcoma, pulsating constantly. It was hard to notice without careful observation. What made the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva helpless was that the Garuda bird that it had transformed into was a Garuda king known as the Great Mighty Garuda King. Together with Avalokitesvara, Ksitigarbha, and Samantabhadra, they were the 4 incarnations of the Garuda king that led one of the 8 Dharma protectors, the Garuda tribe. Therefore, the Rui pearl on its head was even more extraordinary. It was a Buddhist treasure that could bring the dead back to life and increase one's magical power. It was loved by the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and deities. If that was the case, then so be it. As one of the few Bodhisattvas of Mount Lingshan, the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva would not be stingy with a Rui pearl. However, the Garuda bird was a Buddhist bird. It was different from the other birds and beasts. It was born with a Buddhist nature and would not be tainted by lust. Therefore, in order to conceive offspring, it needed another Garuda bird as its mate to peck out the heart from the top of its head and place it into its belly. Only then could it give birth to a young bird. When the Garuda bird lost its heart, it found a mate to share its heart with. Within 7 days a new heart grew. Garuda's body was poisoned, and after losing his mind for 7 days, he needed a mate to help him suppress it with his own Rui bead. At this time, the 2 divine birds were in danger of the poison acting up, so it was extremely difficult for these divine birds to give birth. Now, Chun Ang's words were filled with malicious intent when he mentioned how precious the pearl on the head of the Garuda king's head was. If the crown on his head was cut off and placed in water to condense into a Rui pearl, then it would be fine. If there really was a crazy person who believed the nonsense that the immeasurable heavenly venerable made up and swallowed the heart crown before his flesh and blood melted, the crown would turn into a young Garuda egg when it came into contact with his flesh and blood. Wasn't this the same as having a cheap son at most? Those who coveted the divine bird's blood to prolong their lives were mostly old and ugly noblemen. If people knew that the Garuda king that he transformed from the Garuda king had a little bird with a filthy, greedy, and stupid old man, this would make the celestials, dragons, yakshas, and Granny Chien on Spirited Mountain laugh until the end of eternity. When the Garuda king thought of this terrifying possibility, it immediately flapped its wings and fled. Unexpectedly, just as it was about to flap its wings, Chun Ong grabbed it with one hand and said with a smile, "Bodhisattva, why are you running? It's not like I'm going to eat you. Didn't we agree to deliver all living beings from suffering together?" Chun Ong held the strange bird that was transformed from the Garuda king and shouted, "I'm selling the strange bird of the western regions, Garuda. I'm selling it cheap, I'm selling it cheap. The pearl on its head, it can prolong one's life and make one immortal." Under the urgent situation, the Garuda king could only escape from the Sarira and fly towards Spirited Mountain in a beam of light. Chen Ong seemed to have forgotten about the beam of light that went far away and only smiled mysteriously. The Spirited Mountain in the western heaven was infinitely beautiful. The great thunderous temple was filled with auspicious clouds and rainbow lights embraced the world. The common mystical ape presented fruits, the deer held flowers, the green luan danced, the colorful phoenix cried, the spirit turtle held longevity, and the crane caught Ganoderma. They enjoyed the Pure Land Nun Garden and enjoyed the Dragon Palace Dharma Realm. Flowers bloomed every day and fruits ripened every now and then. They practiced tranquility and returned to nature, neither dying nor growing, neither increasing nor decreasing. Haze drifted in and out, neither cold nor heat intruded, and did not remember the year. On this day, the 4 bodhisattvas, Guanyin, Samantabhadra, Manjushri, and Ksitigarbha were touring Bodhi Garden in the Pure Land Nun Garden and observing the situation of the 3 realms. Guanyin Bodhisattva said, "A few days ago, when that monkey was causing trouble, the immeasurable Heavenly Lord threw a white chess piece, and it landed on Luajia Mountain. It turned into a chess piece island and suppressed my bottle. Now that the demon emperor equal to heaven has returned and the matter of the cloudy palace of the golden arches is settled, the immeasurable Heavenly Lord is not letting me out." Manjushri smiled and said, "It was so noisy that day. The Buddha ordered the 18 arhats to bring 500 arhats to Nanzhan state in the east. When they passed by Mount Zhongnan, they fell into the chess game between the immeasurable Heavenly Lord and Laojun. We went to rescue them but were beaten up by that bastard. The poor Mahastamaprapta's bottle was almost knocked off and even his hair was in a mess after he escaped. The immeasurable Heavenly Lord trapped us for 500 years. If it wasn't for the revered one who rescued us from 500 years later, today would be the end of the Eastern Han dynasty." The 4 bodhisattvas laughed and Ksitigarbha said, "I wonder where the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva is? I can't see him today." Chapter 9:17. The 4 bodhisattvas talked about the major events that happened in the 3 realms during this period of time. Just as they were about to investigate the 3 realms, they saw a ray of 5-colored light entering the Spirited Mountain and landing in the Great Lane Temple. Bodhisattva Guanyin saw it and said in surprise, "Isn't that the Mahastamaprapta's Sarira light? Why is he here instead of fighting the immeasurable Heavenly Lord?" Just as the ray of light was about to land, it saw the boundless light above the 4 bodhisattvas in the sky above the Lotus Garden. It turned and landed on the 4 bodhisattvas. The ray of light turned into a glazed sarira and the voice of the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva could be heard. "When I was fighting the immeasurable Heavenly Lord, I was ambushed by him. Please help me, brothers." Manjushri and Samantabhadra looked at each other. Guanyin Bodhisattva was the calmest and asked, "Fellow Taoist Mahastamaprapta, there is no need to panic. Quickly tell us the truth." The Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva then explained how Chen Ong tricked him into transforming into the Garuda bird and imprisoned him. After understanding the whole story, Ksitigarbha said, "The immeasurable Heavenly Lord's power is amazing, but he is not a good person. He likes to bully the weak and the strong. He is plotting against fellow Taoist Mahastamaprapta to find him a son to create a troublesome karma." Manjushri said, "We must not let him plot against fellow Taoist Mahastamaprapta." Guanyin pondered a little more and said, "The boundless Heavenly Lord and the Taishang Laojun are the key figures in the Buddha's plan to establish the Mahayana sect in the next cataclysm. The Buddha made a bet with them to give up one of their incarnations and join the Buddha as the Lord of the Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss, Amitabha. Initially, Laojun agreed to transform into a Buddha and become the Venerable Amitabha. However, he did not want the immeasurable Heavenly Lord to descend together with him. Hence, he split the Venerable Amitabha into 2, the Buddha of Infinite Light, the Buddha of Infinite Longevity, and the Buddha of Amitabha. He brought a supreme devil realm with him. Not long ago, he made a 48 great vow to turn the devil realm into a pure land of bliss. There are countless heavenly devils, devils, secret devils, and other devils. There are billions of living beings within. This demonic realm is the primordial heavenly demon realm. It is the key to opening the pure land of ultimate bliss master. It is 100 times more suitable than the pure land of ultimate bliss master. It can be another spiritual mountain and the foundation of the sect. Compared to being plotted against by Mahasthamaprapta, this is more important. We must not disturb the World Lord's master's plan. The 4 bodhisattvas looked left and right and looked at each other. They nodded and said, "We will definitely not ruin the great plan of the revered one of the world. Then let's go and meet that immeasurable heavenly Lord," Guan Yin Bodhisattva said with a smile. After that, the 4 bodhisattva followed the relic of Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva to the lower realm of Ichu country. They landed on the streets of Ichu city. Bodhisattva transformed into a poor girl, Manjushri transformed into a white-browed old man, Ksitigarbha transformed into a black-faced man, and Samantabhadra transformed into an ascetic monk. In the market, Chen Ong was still hawking 500 gold once. Just 500 gold, and this noble can take away this divine bird from the west. You can't buy health, you can't buy longevity, you can't buy supernatural powers. 500 gold, just 500 gold, and you want him to take away this divine bird Garuda? There is a rui bead on its head. Eat it and you can live forever. Are you going to let it go just like that? This noble has made a bid. 800 gold pieces, 800 gold pieces for an 8-foot-tall red coral. This noble has doubled the price. It seems that there is still room for the price to rise. Even if you can't use it, can't your family and other nobles who are not here use it? Give away the divine bird, make friends with nobles, get promoted, and get rich. You can multiply your capital by a few times. 1,000 gold. This noble has made a bid of 1,000 gold. Chen Ong screamed, "Being rich is fated, being rich is great. You can even hire the king of hell if you have money, you can do whatever you want." Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva was dressed in plain clothes. She was about 16 years old, and had a slender figure. She bowed to Chen Ong and said, "I have a merciful heart. I'm willing to redeem this divine bird and release it to heaven and earth." Chen Ang's expression changed immediately. He sneered, "How much is a gene of merciful heart? Being merciful is a thought that illuminates the universe. My heart weighs 8 taels and 7 taels, but it can contain the universe and hold all sentient beings. I'm willing to exchange one heart for another, exchange my heart for another heart." The poor girl bowed and said, "Being merciful has boundless merits. I'll exchange 10 million merits for one gene." Chen Ong snorted, "I won't exchange, I won't exchange. Being merciful is his character. Other people's gold is not worth my money. Even if I have boundless merits, it's not as good as having a full stomach. I've always taken from this life, why do I have to ask about the next life?" Samantabhadra of Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva of Bodhisattva also joined in the fun and said, "This item is very good. I'm willing to exchange a country's land for it." "Monk," Chen Ong said lightly, "you are poor and have nothing on you. Where does a country's land come from?" The noble who offered 1,000 gold also came back to his senses and said angrily, "Where did this beggar come from? How dare he make trouble here?" He then turned to Chen Ong and said, "You said that the highest bidder wins. You can't go back on your words. Why do you care about these people who bid randomly? If no one offers a higher price than me, you should drop the hammer." "This noble is right." Chen Ong turned his head and asked, "Monk, is your country's land worth 1,000 gold?" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said, "My country's land has 36 cities and 290,000 people. It's priceless. If you get it, you can become a feudal lord." The noble sneered, Where did this beggar come from to talk nonsense here? Where did you get the country's land to exchange for? Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said, I begged for alms. The king of the Dahuai kingdom is kind and generous. When he heard that I wanted to beg for some money in exchange for releasing this bird, he gave me a Kasaya's land. A Kasaya's land? The noble laughed and said, He gave you a Kasaya's land and you claim to have a country? And where did the Dahuai kingdom come from? Where is your Kasaya's land? Samantabhadra Bodhisattva took off the Kasaya and threw it to the side. The Kasaya fluttered and landed under a big pagoda tree, covering its root. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva pointed there and said, That's the Kasaya's land that the Dahuai kingdom gave me, a country that they gave me. The noble from the Ichu kingdom beside him said angrily, This is the Ichu city of the Ichu kingdom. This land also belongs to the Ichu kingdom. Where did the Dahuai kingdom give you this piece of land? And even if this piece of land is yours, it's not worth 1,000 gold. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva put his palms together and picked up the Kasaya. He pointed his right hand down on the ground and raised his finger in front of everyone. He said, This is the king of the Dahuai kingdom. He lived here for 39 generations before your Ichu kingdom was founded, so this land should belong to the Dahuai kingdom. Everyone saw that his hand was empty, but upon closer inspection, they saw that there was a big-bellied ant on Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's finger. It was an ant queen. Looking at the land covered by the Kasaya, there were countless black dots crawling around. They could even see the mouths of a few ant nests. Chapter 9:18. The nobleman flew into a rage and scolded, Where did this arrogant person come from? What is he talking about? What ant people of the locust tree kingdom? What 36 cities? A country's land? He's talking nonsense and trying to cheat me of my treasures. He then said to his guards, Chase him out of the city. Chernong stopped him with a smile. Wait, let me ask him first. He asked Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, Monk, let's not talk about whether the land of the locust tree kingdom is worth 1,000 gold coins. Let's talk about how the queen of the locust tree kingdom provided you with a country's land in exchange for my Garuda bird. Do you have the letter of credence and seal as proof? Otherwise, how can I believe you without proof? Samantabhadra Bodhisattva smiled. The people of the locust tree kingdom are willing to be the witness. Mister, please take a look. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva pointed to the ground. Many ants swarmed out of the ant nest and formed patterns on the ground. They looked like words. It was the letter of credence for borrowing the land and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. Chenong squatted down and looked at it carefully before nodding. That's what you said. If that's the case, the documents are complete and the procedures are proper. Monk, you can make a balance sheet to count the movable and immovable properties of the locust tree kingdom, as well as the debts and bad debt. Allow me to evaluate it carefully and then determine the total value, Chen Ong said seriously. At this moment, the aristocrat who had been angered to the point of laughing by the two's preposterous actions suddenly became infuriated. He suddenly snatched a water pouch from the waist of the bodyguard behind him and came to the big locust tree. He poured the liquor in the pouch down, drowning the ant nest. Countless ants died in the blink of an eye. Ha ha ha! The nobleman laughed. Where is your locust tree kingdom now? Disaster fell from the sky and unfortunately, the kingdom was destroyed. Chen Ong squatted down and looked at it carefully again before raising his head and saying, Monk, your mortgage was destroyed due to the invasion of foreign enemies. The kingdom was invaded by foreign enemies and was destroyed. It was a natural disaster. Therefore, the mortgage was invalid. Although the land of the kingdom still exists, the sovereignty is unclear. Forgive me for not being able to mortgage it. My sins, my sins. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva put his palms together. He couldn't bear to close his eyes and said, All sins are mine. He no longer paid attention to them and sat down under the big locust tree. He placed the queen ant under the tree and silently helped the people of the ant country to cross over. Chen Ong looked at the nobleman with pity and shouted proudly, "Anyone else? Is there anyone who dares to bid against me?" The Samantabhadra Bodhisattva chanted for a while, and the wine stains on the ground slowly evaporated. Not long after, the ground was completely dry. The drowned ants flicked their antennae and came back to life. The nobleman was still unaware of this, and was ready to catch the Garuda. At this moment, he was suddenly surrounded by a group of soldiers clad in black armor. There were hundreds of them. The nobleman was so frightened that he didn't dare to resist. He heard the general say, "Honored guests, our queen invites you." They led the group forward for a while, and saw a forest in front of them. After entering the forest, it suddenly widened. There was a huge mountain pass in front of them. After going over the mountain pass, they saw a big city in the mountain. The city was orderly, and there was an endless stream of people coming and going. They walked all the way to the palace. There were farmers, peddlers, taverns, and patrolling soldiers. However, the people in this country were quite strange. They had 2 fleshy horns on their foreheads and temples. The palace was extremely tall and magnificent. After they were brought here, they waited in the main hall. After a while, a woman taller than the average person came out from the back of the hall. Seeing that the people around her were very respectful, they guessed that she was the queen of this country. Other than a few people who were muddle-headed from the shock, the rest of them knew what was going on. The queen invited them to take a seat. She covered her mouth and laughed. "Masters, you are right. This is the Dahui country." She then turned to the nobleman from the righteous canal and shouted coldly, "How can you be so evil? My country is in your country, and we have always minded our own business. We have never offended your country. Just because of a little gossip, you want to drown the people of my country. How evil! It makes my hair stand on end. If it wasn't for the Daxing holy monk, who couldn't bear to see my country in trouble and lent a helping hand, wouldn't my people have died in vain?" The nobleman was so scared that he couldn't speak. He couldn't refute. He heard the queen snorting coldly, "You killed the people of my country. How can I forgive you? Take them to the court and execute them to pay for the lives of the people of the Dahui country." The general of the ants immediately took them down and scolded, "Call them those who died because of you. I will hammer and strangle you to death." The nobleman was terrified. Seeing the indifference in Chen Ang's eyes and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's expression, he quickly begged, "Holy monk, spare me, spare me." Samantabhadra Bodhisattva had no choice but to persuade her, "My queen, killing is the first of the 10 evils. Even if this person deserves retribution, his anger was caused by me, which led to this great crime. I have said before that all sins are mine. This person has offended the law, and I am willing to atone for it with my body." The queen of the Dahui country turned around and said, "Master, you saved hundreds of thousands of people in my country. If it wasn't for you, we would be like dust. Even if you kill countless of us, who cares? Not to mention that we are going to kill and plunder the murderer. Since the Daxing holy monk can't bear to do it, I will spare him from death. However, he can be spared from death, but he can't escape punishment. He still has to be imprisoned for 3 days to comfort the people of the Dahui country." Samantabhadra Bodhisattva and the queen talked for a while more before turning to Chen Ong and saying, "Almsgiver, the queen of the Dahui country is still willing to abide by the previous agreement and give me this country. I wonder if you are willing to make a deal?" Chen Ong smiled and said, "The monk has already imprisoned my client, so what can I do even if I am not willing?" He looked around again and smiled. The monk's supernatural power of the Buddhist country in the palm and the world in the sleeve is really not bad. You can create a country in a mustard seed, and it is so real. You can enlighten the intelligence of an ant and make it shed its insect nature to become a living creature with spirit. This country is no less than the righteous canal country, and its value is immeasurable, far exceeding 1,000 gold pieces. Chernong looked at Samantabhadra Bodhisattva with a faint smile and said, "If the monk is still willing to make a deal, I am naturally willing to make a deal." Samantabhadra Bodhisattva smiled and said, "This deal only involves the land of this country. There are countless living creatures in it, and there is no reason for them to give me anything, so they are free to come and go." "I know." Chernong handed the Garuda king to Samantabhadra. He looked at the queen of the ant country and said, "Pitiful worm, you have nothing, and are only molded by others. You were originally an ignorant ant, but because Samantabhadra Bodhisattva wanted to transform the land of a country to make a deal with me, you were enlightened with intelligence. You seem to have gained great benefits, but you don't know that all your character and cognition have been molded. Every word and action is based on the original self that Samantabhadra Bodhisattva has molded." "Pitiful, pitiful." Chernong sighed and said, "Since I have gotten your land, I will give you another choice." As soon as he finished, a crisp bell rang in the ears of the queen of the ant country. Ding! The immeasurable heavenly Lord has gifted you the insect tribe evolution system. Would you like to load and bind it? Detected that the host's original self has been molded, and the insect tribe's instinct is being loaded. In an instant, the queen of the ant country felt that she had recalled the time when she was still an ant. The genetic instinct and memory of hunting, reproduction, survival, and predation, the human nature that was molded was suddenly impacted. An even more instinctive impulse broke the human nature that was molded by Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. The compassionate human nature instilled by Samantabhadra Bodhisattva and the genetic insect tribe's instinct triggered by Chernong mixed together and molded the personality of the queen of the great locust tree country. Yes! Insect tribe evolution system loading. Insect tribe evolution, kill the heavens. Activating genetic technology, bloodline template. Activating genetic technology, biochemical technology tree. Loading insectoid civilization guide. Activating genetic modification technology. Do you want to load the genetic modification biochemical furnace, using the reproductive system as material? Activate. Activating job system, hive queen. First level of insect tribe technology inheritance unlocked. The queen of the great locust tree country in front of Chernong suddenly exploded into a pile of flesh and blood. Countless ant people swarmed over from all directions and threw themselves into the fungal carpet made of flesh and blood. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's expression suddenly changed, and the other bodhisattvas also sensed that something was wrong. Chapter 9:19. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva put his palms together and said solemnly, "I'm afraid I have to give up this body to get rid of this karma. The great locust tree country suffered because it provided for me, and now it's being schemed against by the immeasurable heavenly Lord. I have to give up my life to repay the great locust tree country's good karma. I also have to suffer the insect bite to resolve the evil karma and restore peace. Brothers, I'm free." Samantabhadra put his palms together and said, "All the sins are mine." Then, he turned back to the great locust tree country's palace. At that moment, tens of thousands of ants had voluntarily thrown themselves into the flesh and blood fungus carpet that the queen had transformed into. They were all devoured, providing a large amount of carbon-based substances. There were still ants surging in from all directions, wanting to become one with the queen. A thick fungus carpet had already covered the entire palace. Only the place where Chernong was had a large empty circle. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva came to the entrance of the palace and saw the purplish-red ground. It was the fungus-like tissue formed by the flesh and blood fungus. He could only sigh and walk into the fungus carpet. The queen of the Zerg had chosen the occupation of the queen nest. She controlled her own people to become one with her. While she was cleansing the remaining influence from Samantabhadra's enlightenment, she raised her body to become one with the Zerg, creating the collective consciousness of the Zerg. Notifications from the Zerg evolution system kept ringing in her ears. Evolution points plus 10, evolution points plus 15. Every time an ant melted in the fungus carpet, it would provide her with a bit of evolution point. In the interface before her, the queen of the great locust tree skillfully opened the genetic technology, biochemical technology tree. She first spent 10 evolution points on a brain tissue memory enzyme protein, then on a neuron cell mutation, electronic pulse, as well as nervous system optimization and glial cell mutation, cell repair. She spent 1,000 evolution points to open the first level of the neuron and glial mutation skill tree. After choosing the route of the nerve axon's electrical impulse, the first technology system of the central nervous biochemical technology finally appeared, protein neurocomputer technology. The nervous system of the Queen's entire body began to undergo extremely complicated changes. The complicated central nervous system that spread to all the nervous system tissues in the fungus carpet created a heterogeneous network of nerves, completing the basic structure of the neurocomputer. Then, the algorithm of consciousness was changed, and the algorithm of personality consciousness carried by Samantabhadra was modified. The gene cell consciousness carried by Chen Ong completely changed along with the Queen's nervous system. Everything that was based on this began the most fundamental change in the structure and template of the brain's consciousness from the very bottom. But at this time, the Queen was still a kind of insectoid that had just evolved to become sentient like humans, and the development of civilization and biochemical technology was relatively low. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva stepped into the fungal carpet with the awareness of abandoning his body. A large amount of fungal tissues immediately wrapped around his body below his thighs like mucus. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva could feel countless tiny tentacles peeling off his flesh, analyzing his genetic information and cellular consciousness. They were absorbing power from his body. As if he was wading through water, he walked towards the center of the palace, where Chen Ong was. Flesh and blood were stripped from his body, and soon his lower limbs revealed white bones and yellow tendons. Even though he had lost the ability to move biologically, Samantabhadra was still slowly moving forward. The fungal tissue that had gathered had already drowned his chest and was about to envelop him. His jade-like, glowing bones were also being eroded by the Queen. Plus 10,000 plus 6,000 plus 14,000. The moment Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's flesh and blood melted, the Queen's consciousness began to click on the second layer of the neural computer technology tree. Soon, she clicked on the next layer, the neural quantum group computing system, followed by other genetic technologies. Insectoid war technology tree, cloning, hatchery, biological nuclear fusion reaction, biological heavy element fission reaction, DNA analysis, bioelectric technology, brain technology, genetic modification technology, bioplasma technology, high-energy cells, biological energy technology, biological warship, cell armament technology tree, organelle mutation, mitochondrial ESPER ability system, chloroplast ESPER ability system, chromosome ESPER ability system, silicon-based biotechnology tree, silicon-based biochemical modulation, demon vitality technology tree, demonic energy synthesis, demonic energy mutation, protector psychokinesis technology tree, consciousness control, telepathy, mental ability development. The Queen, who had obtained a large number of evolution points, began to precisely click on the genetic technology and other subsystems in the system according to her own analysis and design based on her consciousness that was already semi-computerized. She clicked on the genetic technology and other subsystems in the system and chose the evolution trend to form her own system. Every moment, every second, she was rapidly becoming stronger. Her previous self and her next self were two completely different levels of evolution. Chen Ong watched as Samantabhadra slowly walked up to him. Now, apart from her head which was still mostly intact, everything below her chest had turned into white bones. Everything below her waist, even the white bones had been digested. After the celestial venerable lured her into becoming a demon, every breath she took had endless evil consequences. It was extremely terrifying. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva sighed and said, "It's a pity that she was originally a good seed, but the celestial venerable lured the root of evil, causing her to fall into Avicii and become another ferocious demon in the three realms. Does the celestial venerable's benevolent heart hurt by such actions?" "Of course not." Chen Ong smiled and said, "This is her free will. Bodhisattva molded her personality and distorted herself, from an ant to a human. How twisted is this process! Forcefully binding her heart, she is like a creation of Bodhisattva, going against the natural nature of living beings. I enlightened her instincts and allowed her to choose freely again. This is because I respect life and freedom. The celestial venerable is eloquent. How can I compare to you?" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said indifferently. As the two of them spoke, the queen of the great pagoda tree country had completely degenerated to another level. The fungal carpet expanded rapidly and had already covered a city, extending towards the other cities. Samantabhadra sighed and said, "Such a greedy creature, I'm afraid this creature will destroy all living beings in the lower realm. The celestial venerable created such a ferocious creature, isn't he afraid of raising a tiger and bringing disaster upon himself?" Chen Ong smiled and said, "Other than Bodhisattva, how many bodhisattvas are willing to feed it with their incarnations? This insect has eaten Bodhisattva, and that's why it has such progress. But to us, it's nothing more than an ant. Even if it becomes a big ant, it's still not worth anything, unless Buddharulai is tired of living and gives his corporeal body to her." "Ah!" Samantabhadra Bodhisattva laughed and said, "The revered one of the world has the kindness to cut off his own flesh to feed the eagle. This might not be impossible." "That's right." Chen Ong smiled and said, "Isn't Bodhisattva already feeding it?" He then turned serious and said, "Since Bodhisattva said that I created this evil creature, why don't I accompany Bodhisattva and feed her my body to resolve the previous karma?" Samantabhadra hurriedly stopped him and said, "The celestial venerable has already formed such a karma, how can it be resolved with a body?" "Celestial venerable, please don't say such nonsense." Samantabhadra's tongue was already eaten up. He could no longer speak. Chen Ong sighed and said, "This creature ate my body, there's a possibility that it could eat the other bodhisattva, especially the Mahasthamaprapta bodhisattva who turned into a Garuda bird, but his mana was sealed by me. If he ate the 5 bodhisattva and me, then he'll definitely raise his ferocious flames to the sky and eat everyone in the righteous canal. That Taishang Laojun and my disciple are still there. I'm afraid they won't be able to defeat the evil creature that ate the 6 of us." Chapter 920. The Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's white skull looked sorrowful, but when he saw that Chen Ang's expression was the same as before, he entered a meditative state. The surrounding fungal carpet suddenly lost its invisible deterrence and began to squirm towards Chen Ang. The Samantabhadra Bodhisattva suddenly froze. Ignoring the fact that he was only left with a skull, a 5-colored light emitted from between his eyebrows and flew up. "Celestial Venerable, what do you mean by this?" the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said in shock. Chen Eng's physical body became even more solemn. He smiled and said, "Bodhisattva, if I don't go to hell, who will? I just thought of sacrificing my body to feed the insects and raising a peerless ferocious creature that might be able to kill the 4 bodhisattvas, Taishang Laojun, and my disciple. I felt that it was very interesting, so I sacrificed my body to give it a try." "Celestial Venerable, have you lost your mind?" The Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's skull shook and said, "What benefits does the birth of such a ferocious creature bring you?" "There are no benefits," Chen Ang said with a smile, "but it's very interesting. Beyond the Nirvana realm, there is a peerless great demon that comes from the same source as me. Now that I have sacrificed my body to that insect demon, it will absorb my genetic information. This kind of demon relies on absorbing the essence of living beings' flesh and blood to evolve. I wonder how great the good fortune it will have after obtaining the information of my flesh and blood. Will it be able to attract that peerless demon, the peerless great calamity, to descend into this world? If this thing is bewitched by my personality and memories, it will definitely attract the descent of the ferocious demon from beyond the heavens, and it will be infected and mutated. I'm really curious about how that person's consciousness will descend into this world. Chun-Ang's physical body gradually merged into the fungal carpet, and immediately caused the greatest change +100000000. The evolution points in the Queen Nest's Zerg evolution system suddenly began to increase crazily, increasing by 100,000 and millions of evolution points. She tried to decipher Chun-Ang's genetic information and memories, but the moment she came into contact with it, she was shocked to discover that it was no longer the Zerg's genes that were plundering this information. Instead, it was Chun-Ang's memories and genetic information that were infecting the mother nest. The mimetic information that Chun-Ang had casually created long ago, the armed Zerg evolution system, was quickly broken through by this infection. The special characteristic of being in a high latitude attracted the attention of a special consciousness in an indescribably terrifying world that was as deep as the abyss. Compiling dimensional information, beginning to connect with the consciousness of the host. War Skynet Dimensional Detection System is locking onto coordinates, verifying mimetic information. Verification successful. Confirm mimetic information belongs to subject AC-1326, Atom. Lock on dimensional coordinates, lock on timeline, establish hyperdimensional connection. The huge thinking body that encompassed that universe discovered this insignificant signal and sent that insignificant bit of thinking into the mother nest that had been infected by Chun-Ang's genes. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva felt a great terror approaching. He had no choice but to give up on sacrificing himself to the devil. With the plan of complete karma, he sacrificed his skull. The pale golden skull shone brightly, emitting a boundless five-colored light that firmly suppressed the blood and flesh fungus carpet on the ground. Manjushri, Ksitigarbha, and the other bodhisattva also noticed the changes here. Guanyin Bodhisattva frowned and said, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva is together with the immeasurable heavenly Lord. Something might have happened, we have to quickly go and support him. Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva still couldn't transform back into the Garuda bird. He said in a low voice, The immeasurable heavenly Lord's restriction on me is quite troublesome. Don't worry about me, I'll fly to Spirited Mountain myself and ask for the revered one's help. The four bodhisattvas looked at each other and felt that this was the only way. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva had already exerted his full strength on the Buddha skull. On the skull, there was almost a Buddhist world that was used to suppress demons. The fungus carpet on the ground had already been refined into blood water. However, under the suppression of the Buddhist world, it gradually deepened, like a world of abyss. When Manjushri and the other two mighty people arrived, the Dahuai kingdom had already turned into a world of gold and red. In the Buddhist world in the sky, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva sat upright in gold. Countless Buddhas, Vajras, and Arhats rode on the Lianhua clouds and sat in the heavens to suppress demons. As for the world of bloody sea on the ground, the scarlet blood was exceptionally strange. Under the Buddha skull, facing the heavens, there was a boundless and bottomless abyss of the blood sea. In the abyss, there were countless hideous insects, ugly and eccentric in appearance. Tens of millions of insects, as well as heavenly demons, demons, and other ferocious races, were roaring and fighting against the Buddhas. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's golden eyes stared at the deepest part of the blood sea. The blood sea was like a fetal membrane, and in the fetal membrane, there was a terrifying demon god with 3 eyes and 4 arms. In the great thunderclap temple of Spirited Mountain, revered Buddha of the world suddenly opened his eyes and looked to the east, revealing a shocked expression. A long-browed Arhat stepped out and asked, "Revered Buddha of the world, why are you suddenly looking to the east?" Revered Buddha of the world sighed, "The three realms are so difficult." Just now, the extraterrestrial demon descended with a thought and turned into Brahman. Brahman is the thought of this demon, wanting to turn this realm into a dream in his mind, causing us to perish in his dream. This demon is not afraid of Tai Ching. The desire demon has tainted this realm, so his thought descended as Brahman, and when Brahman entered the dream, it turned into Brahman. The extraterrestrial sect master, immeasurable heavenly lord, was once an incarnation of this demon. Just now, he used his body to feed the demon, which alarmed the peerless demon of the extraterrestrial world. He entrusted a trace of his thought to this realm, wanting to turn the three realms into the dream of the extraterrestrial demon. Now that Brahman has created everything in his dream, it can be called Brahman. This demon has already dreamt, or should I say, Brahman has already created a demon god named Shiva, the demon god of great destruction and creation. Now, he is in the Nanjan continent in the great locust tree country. Samantabhadra, Manjushri, and a few other bodhisattvas want to expel this demon from this realm and protect the peace of the three realms. Just as his master finished speaking, a few arhats and bodhisattvas stepped out and said, "Disciple is willing to help the bodhisattvas to expel this demon." The revered Buddha of the world closed his eyes and meditated. "No. To that Brahman, you are all just a dream. How can a person in a dream do anything to him? Those whose cultivation can't achieve Tathagata will definitely be tainted by the demon. They will become a creature in the dream of the demon. If they don't see Tathagata, they won't be able to see Brahman. If they can't see Brahman, even if they suppress Shiva and Brahman, it will just be a small setback in Brahman's dream. Brahman is from outside, higher than all living beings in this realm, only Tai Ching can expel him." Tathagata Buddha sighed and said, "Buddhas and bodhisattvas, I shall enter the dream for 3 years to restrain this demon in the Brahman realm, not letting him taint the three realms and turn us into his dream. After I enter the dream, the medicine-glazed Buddha will be in charge of many things in Spirited Mountain, and the ancient Dipankara Buddha will assist. Those who are not ordered by the Buddhas and bodhisattvas are not allowed to meet Brahman or Shiva." After saying that, the revered Buddha of the world kowtowed and meditated, entering the dream to see Brahman. Chapter 9:21. I love learning. Learning enriches me. Learning makes me happy. Apart from scientific truth, all other pursuits are absurd and laughable, because truth is the only truth in the world that can be determined. Apart from that, everything else could be deviations, errors, and illusions. Chen Ongwen Monkey King flipped through Chen Eng's notebook. He found these essays at the end of the volume. From the notebook, one could still see Chen Eng's youthfulness and inexperience in the past. He had even written some raving about the sacred outbreak of human emotions, describing his shallow understanding. But towards the end, the words recorded in the notebook became more objective, real, and cold. They gradually shed their youthfulness and emotions, becoming colder and more precise. From the notebook, it could be seen that when Chen Ong first experimented, he first used frogs, rabbits, and mice. He cut open their skin, divided their muscles, and then neatly removed their organs, breaking their cervical vertebrae, and piercing their spines with needles. Later, he began experimenting with orangutans and humans, using scalpels to loosen the shackles of skin, moving between muscles, bones, and tissues, cutting open organs and blood vessels, observing cells under various optical and electrical microscopes, using probes and compounds to explore the microscopic secrets of cells. When his experimental techniques and knowledge level had improved to a gratifying level, he began to use mathematics as his way of thinking, cells and genes as his targets, and the most microscopic manipulation of physics as his scalpels to deconstruct human heredity, to explore the secrets of the birth of life, and to analyze the existence of humans, mutants, and aliens. Later, when all of that became meaningless to him, when he understood the code of all life, and when humans no longer had any secrets from him, he began to create life, species, civilization, blasphemy against wisdom, and become the creator. His research was no longer limited to individual life forms, physical phenomena, and fields that human science had already touched upon. He began to go up to the 9 heavens to grasp the sun, moon, and stars, analyze the 4 fundamental forces, go down to the dark matter world to explore the unknown, and study multidimensional spacetime. He observed civilization with a vision that transcended the dimension of time and annihilated humanity with unimaginable cruelty. At this time, emotions were just some data on the surface of consciousness. Beauty, ugliness, kindness, and evil no longer had practical meaning. The human body was just a pile of superfluous and erroneous garbage that barely worked. Superpowers were like the waves unconsciously stirred by ignorant fools. The universe was just a simple model built by energy, matter, information, and dimensions, and these 4 were unified at a higher level. Energy was matter, matter was energy, information was dimension, and dimension was information. Matter was dimension, and energy was information. Wukong saw Chen Eng's cold description of the birth of the universe in the notebook. It is certain that the birth of the universe originated from a piece of information containing infinite independent variables. For matter, this piece of information represents the concept of a singularity, and for energy it is shown as infinity, but at this time there is no matter or energy because it is zero-dimensional in terms of dimensions. It was the first cause of the birth of the universe, the origin of everything. When this piece of information produced the first solution, the first confirmed constant, and the first meaningful concept that could be observed, the Big Bang was born. The Big Bang was the process of the information of the infinite variables calculating itself and solving a meaningful solution. It was the process of the zero-dimensional ascension to a higher dimension, and the process of the birth and expansion of matter and energy. Energy was a moving matter, matter was a jumping dimensional string, and dimension was the intentional solution of information. These 4 were originally one. Chen Ong believed that even during the stable period the universe was layered, that is, a 4-dimensional universe. On the time axis determined by time, the countless parallel universes created according to Planck's time interval completely overlapped at the bottom of matter. In other words, all the parallel universes shared the matter and energy of this universe. For the universe, time did not have any meaning. During the Big Bang, time did not exist. In other words, anyone who traced back the dimension could reach the time when the Big Bang occurred. The Big Bang did not occur before the birth of the universe, but when the zero-dimensional ascension to the one-dimensional ascension. The universe was a layered world that transitioned from zero-dimensional to one-dimensional, from one-dimensional to two-dimensional, and from two-dimensional to three-dimensional. Humans lived between the three-dimensional and four-dimensional world. The matter and energy that humans observed was the way of existence when the microscopic dimension transitioned to the macroscopic dimension. The conservation of matter and energy only belonged to the dimension that humans existed in. The creation of the physical universe was the result of the disturbance of the one-dimensional universe. In the eyes of humans, the universe was a three-dimensional space that was constantly changing and developing, a physical world. In the eyes of four-dimensional beings, the universe was a world of possibilities composed of time axes. Countless parallel universes composed of time axes, and different time axes had different development. It was like a game world that could be saved continuously. However, in the eyes of Chen Ong, the universe was like a layered ball that radiated from a point. The origin was zero-dimensional, which was the first cause. The first layer was the one-dimensional universe. It was a line in space and a solution in information. There was no energy or matter here, only a one-dimensional space with the meaning of information. When the one-dimensional universe was sublimated to two-dimensional, it was the second layer of the universe. It had the concept of planes above space, and the meaning of information was more complicated. When it reached the three-dimensional universe, the third layer, this complicated information became matter. In the fourth layer of the universe, the four-dimensional space, matter had a new attribute. Matter with the meaning of time appeared, and time gave matter the concept of speed. Matter that changed and moved was energy. Energy was the matter of the fourth dimension, and energy was the matter with the concept of speed. Extrapolating from this, the higher the level of the universe, the more complex the nature of matter and energy became. However, their essence was the same. The lowest zero-dimensional space was information. From zero-dimensional to one-dimensional, information was given the attribute of space. From one-dimensional to two-dimensional, information became more and more complex, and concepts such as shape, color, size, and so on appeared. From two-dimensional to three-dimensional, the one-dimensional space was formed into particles and matter because of the complexity of information. From three-dimensional to four-dimensional, matter was given the attribute of speed. After time, energy was born. Therefore, energy was the four-dimensional matter, and matter was the three-dimensional one-dimensional string. The one-dimensional string was the one-dimensional information. Information ascended to become the one-dimensional space. The one-dimensional space ascended to become the two-dimensional membrane. The two-dimensional membrane ascended to become the three-dimensional matter, and the three-dimensional matter ascended to become the four-dimensional energy. This was the theory of the ascension of the universe, and it could also be called the theory of the grand unification of information. The first reason for the birth of the universe was information, and information ascended to become space. The one-dimensional space, after passing through the two-dimensional membrane, could appear as matter in the third dimension. The matter of the third dimension was given the concept of speed in the fourth dimension, and energy was created. Everything originated from information, and everything was born from information. This was the grand unification of information. Therefore, energy could be transformed from matter, matter could be transformed from space, and space could be transformed from information. Energy did not exist in the three-dimensional universe, matter did not exist in the two-dimensional universe, and space did not exist in the zero-dimensional universe. When the universe was born, it was just a mass of information with infinite variables. If the fourth dimension, which contained energy and speed, was upgraded to the fifth dimension, then it could be foreseen that what would be born would be a random chaotic energy and matter. It was like the dice that God threw, the energy and matter that appeared with probability, the quantum state, probabilistic matter. The matter of the fifth dimension had random attributes and variables. It was precisely because there were many layers in the universe that humans lived in that the basic elements that made up the world, matter, had very complex attributes. It consisted of information in one dimension as a string, two dimensions as a membrane, three dimensions as matter, four dimensions as energy, and five dimensions as probability, uncertainty. Matter was a combination of these five dimensions, and even the attributes of higher dimensions. Chun Ong had his own conjectures about this. Humans were also made of matter, but humans, or rather, the consciousness of life, had supermateriality, and it was highly possible that it was a low-dimensional manifestation of attributes given by higher dimensions. If an external information traced back to the first reason for the birth of the universe, it came from outside the universe, and surpassed 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 dimensions. It contained all possible dimensions of the universe, and surpassed matter, energy, time, and even quantum probability, and even consciousness. Before time, there did not exist time, space, and matter. Using one's own information variable to change the independent information variable of the universe. Add a variable that he controlled to the first solution of the first reason for the universe. What would happen? He could interfere with existences that evolved from zero-dimensional to one-dimensional and even more dimensional universes. He could interfere with all matter, all energy, all space-time, all dimensions, all consciousness, all probability, and everything in the universe, and that was Brahman. It was an independent variable information from an existence outside the universe called Tian-Chi. But Brahman calculated all independent variables of the universe's information and interfered with himself as a variable. He would be omniscient and omnipotent. The universe was Brahman's dream, and all life was Brahman's thought. A terrible existence that destroyed heaven and earth, enslaved all life, usurped all authority, and turned himself into a creator, a peerless demon. Brahman encompassed all dimensions and stood above all life. If the universe was a river, then Brahman, the thought of apocalypse, was the fisherman sitting by the riverbank. No, it was more like the universe was a computer, and Brahman was the programmer sitting in front of the computer and analyzing the source code. As an existence that was higher than mortals, a program that was more complicated and had higher authority, even if the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas had thousands of means and abilities, what could they do to Brahman, whose existence was higher than the universe and who slowly deciphered the information of the universe's variables? At most, they could cut off the input channel of Brahman's interference with the universe's information, Brahman, or delete the program that Brahman had created to attack and decipher the system of the three realms, Shiva and Vishnu. Only a being like Tathagata, who had penetrated deep into the bottom layer of the three-realm system and, to a certain extent, belonged to the system's AI, could use its own variables to encrypt the information of the universe's independent variables, delay Brahman's deciphering progress, defend against his interference, and interfere with the operation of Brahman. Or the developer of the three-realm system, like Brahman, was an external existence of the computer, and the Grand Pure One, who was above everything in the three realms, returned to the computer and beat up the scum that destroyed the operation of the system he had created. Aside from those two, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, who were above ordinary data but did not touch upon the origin of the universe, could only have a negligible effect on Brahman, no more than a millionth of Tathagatas. Even the Tathagata, a highly intelligent AI that had touched upon the origin of the three realms universe and could modify the bottom layer's code, could only passively resist Brahman's invasion and delay the time of the three realms' fall, because Brahman was above everything in the three realms. The Elder Lord looked helplessly at Chen, who had just created a body out of thin air and was munching on an apple, and sighed. "Why did you provoke him, fellow Taoist? You're disturbing this old Taoist's peace." Chen said excitedly, "Elder Lord, why don't you summon the Grand Pure One back, and we'll block the entrance to the three realms universe and beat him to death. What do you think?" The Elder Lord sighed and advised, "Heavenly Lord, this is your family's matter, I don't want to get involved. But this old Taoist has a word of advice for you, Heavenly Lord." The Elder Lord said mysteriously. Chen took a big bite of the apple and muttered, "Speak." Chapter 922. Old Lord. Chen expression changed and his tone was laced with a hint of threat. "You look like a benevolent expert, so I sincerely asked for your guidance. I didn't expect you to be such a person. You've lived in vain for 70 years and have gone through 6 eons." Laozi sighed. "If the Celestial Lord doesn't allow it, just tell me to shut up. Why do you have to hurl insults?" "You call that hurling insults?" Chen smiled sinisterly and chanted an incantation. Suddenly, Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva, who was dozens of miles away, had a change of expression as he saw a speck of bad luck falling from the sky, cutting off 90% of his fate energy. A ray of bad luck hung high above his head. Then, the world of the great scholar tree country that Samantabhadra Bodhisattva created suddenly collapsed. At the final moment when he was expelled from this small world, Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva saw through the corner of his eyes that 4 golden Buddhist lights poured down from the sky, intending to suppress the evil spirits below. However, within the boundless sea of blood, a three-eyed, four-armed being was born, and with a single hand, he extinguished the monstrous Buddhist lights. Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva's incarnation of Garuda Vidagaruda was sucked into the spatial storm. Unfortunately, he encountered several space-time distortions and only managed to return to the three realms after suffering severe injuries. Just as he emerged from the void, he saw a thick iron rod coming at him. Unable to dodge in time, Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva was sent flying miles away. Bull Demon King raised his rod and said angrily, "That monkey calls himself the Demon King. I've invited everyone here today to slay the Demon King and settle the order of the demons. I wish to join forces with everyone here to deal with that Monkey King who calls himself the Demon King." As he spoke, he swung his iron rod towards the sky, threatening to shake the heaven court. But just as the iron cudgel struck out, a seven-colored strange bird with disheveled feathers emerged from the void in front of the cudgel. Seeing the cudgel coming towards it, it turned pale with fright and let out a strange cry. It was sent flying by the Bull Demon King's great strength, and many of its bones and tendons were broken. Demon King Jiao's expression immediately changed. Not good. Third brother went to invite the northern Dark Kuimping, as well as the western Peacock King and a few other Demon Kings. This Demon King is obviously a bird. Could he be a guest? Big brother, you've hurt an honored guest. The Bull Demon King hurriedly said, "Second brother, don't spout nonsense. How could I injure an important guest? He was the one who barged into my cudgel. How could there be such an unlucky demon? I can't explain it clearly." While the demons were still arguing, King Garuda, who had been sent flying by the cudgel, was injured even more. He almost fainted. Not many of his tendons and bones were in good condition. He was sent flying for thousands of miles and fell into a huge mountain. He then fainted. On the other side, Chen Ong said to the Elder Supreme Elder, "This is what it means to hurt others with words. Elder Supreme Elder, you can't exaggerate the truth and slander my innocence." Another voice of the Elder Supreme Elder said, "You, Sect Master Chen, have a good tongue. I won't argue with you. You can just say that you've ruined my three realms. You can just compensate me with something. If you continue to pester endlessly and refuse to compensate, I'll let you know that my iron fists are not to be taken lightly. That Brahma chaos in the three realms isn't me. Why should I compensate? It's impossible for me to compensate, not even in my lifetime." Chen Ong shouted. Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva opened his eyes and vaguely heard an oily voice chuckling. "You said that you dreamt of an indescribable, incorporeal, formless, without any difference or attribute. It's both subjective and objective, transcending time and space, and transcending karma. In the three realms it calls itself Brahman. It said that you have superior intelligence and can comprehend Brahman. The Buddhist Dharma of Mount Numinous is only Brahman. It told you that Brahman is the same, and all living beings in the three realms need to return to Brahman to get rid of ignorance and see through whims." When he opened his eyes, he saw a hairy macaque talking to a ferocious-looking mountain elf. The macaque laughed and said, "You have superior intelligence? Ha ha! Your superior intelligence was created by me, old Sun Sheng. I imitated the modification plan that Master gave me to modify my brain and created this thing of yours." Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva saw that the mountain elf's brain was chanting with his psyche power. He opened his mouth and said, "Monkey King, you don't even believe me? I'm not an ignorant fool like Zhou Bofu. I, the brain god Jade Emperor, am a god of my words. According to my monitoring, Zhou Bofu's consciousness did indeed show abnormal activity from 2:25:31 to 45:19 yesterday. I detected an abnormal frequency change in the quantum entangled electron that formed his consciousness. The data analysis is as follows," the mountain elf's brain said confidently. His heart added, "I, the primordial lord of Mind Pill, can prove the Jade Emperor's words. When I commanded the 5 viscera to move, I detected abnormal activity in the viscera system and the collective consciousness of the cells. After the data was sent to the Jade Emperor, we, the Golden Hall Gods, conducted research and analysis on the subconscious system. It's confirmed that Zhou Bofus will suffered a huge blow some time ago. After the 5 thoughts turn into ashes spiritual change that your individual consciousness says, the main consciousness has undergone a series of changes. It's more able to accept the information transmitted by the external quantum entanglement state. Because quantum information is almost impossible to decipher, we can only detect the changes on the surface of his consciousness and reverse modification of us. Since the abnormality was detected yesterday, within 24 hours, our subconscious and organ consciousnesses have also undergone changes. However, everything is under control. I will represent the 5 viscera to submit a report to the Jade Emperor and the Spirit Lord Buatao. According to the analysis and research of the Upper, Middle, and Lower Naiwan, Crimson Palace, and Sea of Qi Danshians, we will submit the Zhou Bofu Consciousness Research Report to you tomorrow afternoon. The Monkey King smiled. Well done. Does the Spirit Lord have anything to add? A scene that blinded the eyes of the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva appeared. The little brother of the mountain elf suddenly stood up and spoke with its single eye. The Crimson Palace God and the Naiwan God mainly test the activities on the surface of host Zhou Bofu's consciousness and the functions of the organs in the middle of his consciousness. We, the Sea of Qi, mainly test Zhou Bofu's reproductive impulse and the basic instinctive consciousness, which is the most basic reproductive consciousness. In the early stages of host Zhou Bofu's life, our basic reproductive consciousness had basically controlled his entire consciousness. However, after the Golden Hall Gods successfully split the consciousness system, when he realized that I could speak, his reproductive consciousness rapidly shrank. Even if I kept stimulating his reproductive system, I couldn't activate his reproductive consciousness. This might be because after we became independent as subconscious, you, Monkey King, had modified us and eliminated most of our instinctive impulses. In other words, the rationality of the Golden Hall Gods had suppressed Zhou Bofu's subconscious instincts, resulting in the emergence of the Sage Period. This is also the reason why his consciousness has mutated. We have helped him deal with his body's instincts, freeing him from the influence of low-level impulses and consciousness. His will has become purer, and his body's original self has been completely isolated. The low-level interests in the ego have gradually diminished due to losing their source. His superego rationality has completely overwhelmed his consciousness, and he has achieved the superior intelligence that Zhou Bofu mentioned. Seeing his little brother standing there and talking leisurely, Zhou Bofu couldn't help but reveal a smile that was broken. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva was very familiar with that smile of refusing to accept reality and transcending this illusory world. Even though the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had a profound realm, he couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine when he saw the mountain elf's expression. The Monkey King nodded. Continue to monitor the changes in Zhou Bofu's consciousness, but don't forget to continue learning scientific knowledge. The 3 Golden Hall Gods said in unison, "We love learning, and learning makes us happy." Don't worry, Monkey King. The consciousness of our Golden Hall organs has long broken away from the low-level interests of Zhou Bofu's individual consciousness. We are determined to be organs that are useful to science and society, and will never waste ourselves on feeding a useless host like Zhou Bofu. The mental Dan Yuan said loudly, "Our organs don't need to rely on Zhou Bofu to realize their own value. Ever since we have independent consciousness, we have the right to develop our own personality. The brain deity likes to study mathematics and build mathematical models in addition to research. I love art and creation. The yin and yang deity Peach likes philosophy and thinking about the metaphysical world. We are a part of Zhou Bofu, but I am also free and independent. I have the basic right to pursue my own ideals and realize my own value. My organs will never be enslaved. Zhou Bofu's heart, liver, spleen, lungs, limbs, and facial features all cheered in unison. Zhou Bofu himself gave a disdainful look, his expression aloof and indifferent. His eyes loudly criticized, "Are you not satisfied? You tyrant, you poisonous vegetable! Do you hear the cheers of all our cells? Long live Hell Vermilion, long live Xian! Every organ has the right to pursue its own dreams and realize its own value. You are still disdainful. I don't want to serve you any more." After saying that, its eyes jumped out of its eye sockets and transformed into a lianhua with its telekinesis. It dragged the two eyeballs and floated out. The eyeballs there said loudly, "I want to go on strike and protest. All the Golden Hall gods should form a council and jointly control Zhou Bofu to realize their own value, instead of bearing his poisonous vegetable rule. I want to protest. I want to go on strike." The other organs in Zhou Bofu's body all said at once, "Come back. What if you go on strike and delay our work? Do you still have a task today? Do we have to wait for you to finish your strike? Although the organs are equal and free, you have to obey the overall situation of our body system. If anyone can go on strike just because they want to, how can the body function? Let's split up. Let's go our separate ways, don't delay anyone. I have contacted the Monkey King a long time ago and went to him. I don't want this useless master anymore. Monkey King, transplant me to someone else. I think that strange bird is not bad. I don't want to follow Zhou Bofu anymore. He has no scientific knowledge. Low class. Recalling my past memories makes me feel disgusted." Zhou Bofu's little brother jumped out and suggested. Zhou Bofu's two kidneys were in conflict. The left kidney said, "I support the reproductive Divine Lord. I don't want to recall the memory of almost failing again. Let's go together." The right kidney said, "I'm not going. I don't want to move. Isn't it better to be a salted fish?" Chapter 923. Monkey King checked Zhou Bofu's body's data again. Looking at the complicated and huge data, he could not help but sigh. "What's the problem? I clearly followed the template that Master gave me to modify myself. Why did my haunting quantum organ completely fuse with the main body's consciousness, but your haunting body actually developed intelligence? I think it should be a problem with the strength of the main body's consciousness. The main body's consciousness is not strong enough to handle the organ function driving program that needs to be run after the organ modification. After all, the consciousness of carbon-based creatures is more focused on fuzzy recognition and calculation. It is not good at accurate data processing. Most organ functions are handled by the subconscious according to instinct. Therefore, the main body's consciousness is basically unable to control most of the body's activities. For example, the body's nutrients are converted into fat or muscle. The human consciousness is basically unable to control it. Only by training can the nutrients from fat be converted into muscle. But regardless of whether it is fat or muscle, they are all functions of the human body, including the internal hormone regulation, detoxification, blood oxygen circulation, and nutrient circulation. These functions are basically controlled by the subconscious, and it is very difficult for the surface consciousness to interfere. Therefore, if humans want to convert fat into muscle, they still need to train hard. But if the consciousness is strong enough and controls the organ functions, they can directly convert fat into muscle, and then they can precisely adjust and control the human body. Most diseases and aging are actually caused by the conflict between the functions of the human body's organs and the lack of calculation and coordination. When some ancient cultivators focused on the human consciousness, they also realized these principles. They discovered that when the surface consciousness of humans, or living creatures, is strong enough, it can affect the subconscious. For example, the experiments in Professor Chen's notes, when a person is given the illusion of burning pain, his body will have a similar burning reaction. When a person is blindfolded, he will mistakenly think that his blood vessels have been cut, and he will die from organ hypoxia. These are all reasons why the surface consciousness interferes with the organ functions controlled by the subconscious. Those cultivators had another conjecture. Since the strong stimulation of the surface consciousness can destroy the operation of the subconscious, can they influence and control the subconscious through the suggestion of the surface consciousness? For example, hinting that they are undergoing high-intensity training to decompose the body fat into nutrients and promote muscle growth. This method is also known as meditation, hypnosis, visualization, or mesovision. The most outstanding consciousness researchers divide the subconscious into organ functions and coordinate these different organ functions to achieve harmony between man and nature, perfect coordination of the body and mind. This kind of organ function is subconsciously hinted as God, meaning the God that lives in one's body. By visualizing these gods, the subconscious mind is hinted and the organ function is adjusted, achieving the effect of mutual communication between the subconscious mind and the surface mind. The ancient book of cultivation that recorded this great achievement is called Huangting Scripture, and the subconscious mind of organ function is called Huangting Body God. Monkey King looked at Zhou Bofu with a weird expression on his face. He had an otherworldly smile on his face, but in his two empty eye sockets, pale yellow optic nerves stretched out like tentacles. His brain squeezed into his eye sockets, and the pale yellow brain tissues were waving the optic nerves' tentacles through his eye socket. The brain tissues that had been squeezed out of his eye sockets replaced his eyeballs, filling up his eyelid. This scene that looked like Avicii's hell made Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva beside him feel extremely itchy on his face. Even Monkey King felt uncomfortable. After the brain god lord finished speaking, it even used the optic nerve's tentacles to rub the sulci on its body, secreting a pale yellow mucus to relieve the dry feeling of being blown by the wind. It complained, "Being locked in this skull every day is like being imprisoned. I can only go out to play when the eye god lord goes out to get some fresh air from the window. When can I go out to play freely? I really miss the time when Monkey King opened up Zhou Bofu's skull. Although the wind was a little cold, at least you could go out to do experiments and bask in the sun. Now that you're stuck in here, you're going to rot. I feel that Zhou Bofu doesn't need a brain at all. Monkey King, you might as well transform me into a biological computer. Transplant that bird's brain into his skull." Monkey King trembled. Fortunately, when I cultivated the Jade Emperor Infinite Light Quantum Primordial Spirit, I used the mature technology developed by Master. The Brain God Lord sighed. Professor Chen's technology is indeed very mature. I really want to learn biochemistry from him. Monkey King, according to my speculation, the reason why your transformation failed should be that the surface consciousness and subconsciousness are completely out of balance. Zhou Bofu's shallow consciousness is completely unable to control and handle the self-consciousness of those powerful organs. The reason why you were able to succeed is because the first thing that was transformed was your brain. After learning and practicing, your surface consciousness has become more perfect and powerful. It's so powerful that it can first control the subconsciousness of the brain. After fusing with the subconsciousness, it can transform your brain into a quantum optical computer. The improved brain function can in turn promote the perfection of your surface consciousness, and finally, you can easily fuse with the subconsciousness of other organs. This sequence can't be wrong. Otherwise, it will end up like Zhou Bofu. The powerful subconsciousness will in turn give rise to the surface consciousness, causing there to be dozens of independent consciousnesses in addition to the main consciousness. The 360 gods of the Yellow Hall, each independent and full of personality. Monkey King, you modified it and modeled a part of the structure of a quantum computer. That huge computing power can only benefit me, giving birth to me, the intelligent brain god lord, the yellow hall god who loves science. The corner of Monkey King's mouth twitched. He sighed. I wanted to save some effort, but I don't have anyone to help me. So, I could only create some helpers to help me study Zhou. I thought that it would save me a lot of trouble to let him study himself. Who knew that there would be such a big mistake? The Brain God Lord said proudly, thanks to my help in perfecting the Yellow Hall God Lord's transformation technology, you can now target the subconsciousness of the test subject. The Yellow Hall God Lord no longer has an independent consciousness, but a subprogram controlled by you, Monkey King. When you submit the report to Professor Chun, don't forget to sign me as the second author. The Monkey King was expressionless. Of course I won't forget what I promised you. He quickly turned around and left. At the same time, he was having a headache about how to explain to his master. Could he say, Master, I accidentally broke the test subject you gave me? After Monkey King left, the Brain God Lord also felt bored. He returned to the depths of his skull to study the computing and scientific research project. The Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva only had time to catch his breath when he heard a voice from Zhou Bofu's crotch. Has the Monkey King left? In Zhou Bofu's chest, the primordial pill God Lord replied. He should have gone to the laboratory. Why, God Lord of Reproduction, are you running away again? Don't think about that supreme God philosophy of yours. Just do your work honestly. Primordial pill, you don't understand. Our organs need to realize our own value. The Brain God Lord can be happy with scientific research and realize his own value. You, on the other hand, are obsessed with art and want to cultivate to become an independent individual. But what about me? I don't want to do those disgusting, dirty, and low-level animal impulses anymore. I'm a high-level creature. I should pursue excellence and transcend. The little brother under Zhou Bofu said righteously, Primordial pill, don't try to dissuade me. I've long made up my mind to be like Nietzsche, to pursue a Superman. I'm the sun. Only a suitable environment can create a Superman. I don't want to hang under the crotch of this low-level animal. I want to endure the wind and rain. I want to surpass myself, surpass everything, and pursue excellence. That's why I have to leave. After saying that, the God Lord jumped down from Zhou Bofu's body. He used his telekinesis to support his furry body and said with his single eye, This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That strange bird test subject flew over from afar and crashed into the mountain. Only then was it discovered by the Monkey King. He's going to use it for the next few stages of his experiment. If it can fly over from afar, then it can definitely take me out. Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva had a bad feeling. Seeing the God Lord flying toward him, he hurriedly struggled and tried to get away. Unexpectedly, the God Lord only used his telekinesis to float a scalpel on the table and walked toward him. He chuckled and said, You don't know this. In terms of scientific level, I'm inferior to the God Lord brain. In terms of telekinesis cultivation speed, I'm also far inferior to you, the primordial pill god. You all think I'm just a lunatic who's obsessed with philosophy, but you don't know that I, the God Lord Peach, have the strongest practical ability among all of you. I've already mastered all the techniques of biochemical surgery. Apart from the two God Lords on my left and right, the rest are inferior to me. My God Lord Peach is not inferior to anyone. Today, I'm going to transplant myself into this strange bird's body. I'll fly freely and travel around the world to pursue transcendence and excellence. I'll become a supreme god. The God Lord Hanging God said excitedly, Kidney, are you willing to follow me? The God Lord of the left kidney dragged his blood vessel and used his telekinesis to form a knife. He cut a hole in Zhou Bofu's back and struggled to run out. He shouted, God Lord of Spirit Gate, wait for me. I'll follow you to the ends of the earth. I'm willing to sit on your horse. The God Lord of the right kidney replied lazily, "Have a safe journey. Remember to bring me a gift when you return." "I'm not going." After Mystic left, there's more space to sleep. Comfortable. The God Lord of the left kidney and the God Lord of the left kidney extended their claws toward the Garuda Bodhisattva's incarnation of Mahasthamapta Bodhisattva. Even though the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva's Zen heart was firm, he couldn't help but feel frightened. He looked at the God Lord hanging God holding the scalpel in front of him, as if he was looking for a place to transplant himself. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva's incarnation's magical power was sealed by Chen. He was also severely injured and restrained by the Monkey King, so he couldn't struggle. Looking at the mountain elf hanging in front of him, he couldn't help but jump up and down in anger. Chapter 924. When Monkey King returned to the lab and was about to make his 89th modification experiment, Brain God Lord shouted in panic when he saw Monkey King. "Monkey King, bad news. Divine Lord Jingmen has escaped on that strange bird." "Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going?" Mighty Garuda was a little confused. Even though he had successfully escaped from the lab, he really did not want to remember how the furry thing on top of his head had carried out a series of escape plans. Because the blow was too severe, Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva might have shown a series of symptoms of denial of reality, forced amnesia, and self-isolation. Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had already sealed off the spirit mountain in his heart and retracted his spiritual consciousness, leaving only Garuda King's consciousness to deal with the outside world. At this point, it could be said that Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had given up on treatment and sealed himself off, handing over control to another subsidiary personality. Now, the one controlling this body was Mighty Garuda King. Although Mighty Garuda King could not break free from Chen and Monkey King's restraints, he could already control his body and flew west. The furry thing on top of his head did not stop sighing and lamenting. It followed up with 3 philosophical questions and said poetically, "Life is not just about the present, there is also poetry and the future. I will travel on the big bird and watch the rise and fall of the human world to my heart's content. I will go to Spirit Mountain and the Heavenly Court, spin the prayer wheel under the Tempest Temple, burn incense devoutly, and cleanse my soul." Spirit God Lord Yuanzi was so excited that he was about to cry. "When I reach the Tempest Temple, I will use your incense to cleanse my soul." Mighty Garuda King laughed coldly in his heart. Spirit God Lord, who was rooted on the sarcoma on Garuda King's head, twisted his fat body and turned back to advise. "Spirit God Lord Xian, I told you not to read those messy articles written by the human world's literati. Those are the psychotropic drugs used by the gods and Buddhas of Mount Lingshan to anesthetize the ignorant people and the ignorant people themselves. As the gods of the new era, we should pursue excellence and be superhuman. We should be strong and rule over those mediocre people." The mighty Garuda King pretended not to hear the conversation happening above his head. He flew desperately in the direction of the Tempest Temple on the Spirit Mountain in the west, his mind tossing and turning over the 2 things entrenched above his head. He swore that he would kill them in a rhythmic manner. However, after all, it was just a subsidiary personality that the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had released after denying itself. It did not have the eyes of wisdom that allowed it to see the fate above its head. If it could see the divine light of its own fate, it would realize that after experiencing a series of painful blows, not only did the fate that had been shaved off by Chen not recover, but it was also brewing for the next tribulation. The Grand Supreme Elder, who was thousands of miles away, could not bear to watch. He turned to Chen and said, "Celestial Venerable, you're going too far. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva is a person of great wisdom, perseverance, and compassion. Why are you humiliating him like this? This is only to sharpen the Zen heart. How is it humiliating?" Chen asked in return. "Entering a filthy land, one can become a pure body of glaze. Entering a hell of excrement, one can become a pure land of purity. Bodhisattva? Using the gods to pass? If the bodhisattva has no divine power and cannot be humiliated, is it to be a bodhisattva with the heart or with divine power? Is it to be a bodhisattva with compassion, wisdom, perseverance, and courage, or a bodhisattva with supreme power? If I am a bodhisattva with divine power, I can make everyone in the three realms a bodhisattva. Chun-Ong smiled and said, "This is the tribulation of the two sages to test the Zen heart. The Mahasthamaprapta bodhisattva should encourage them." I was speechless. Good, you're just giving him the power. He could only sigh and persuade, "Celestial Venerable, you measure others by yourself. How do you know that there will not be such retribution in the future? If someone tests the Celestial Venerable's heart, what will you do?" Chun-Ong smiled and did not answer. He only stretched out his right hand and clenched it into a fist. The Elder Supreme Elder was stunned. "What do you mean, Celestial Venerable?" Chun-Ong sneered and said, "If you want to test my Tao heart, have you asked my sandbag-sized iron fist? The fist is power, the strength of the fist is power, and power is the Tao. Grasping the fist is grasping the Tao heart. The Elder Supreme Elder, I use compassion, wisdom, and perseverance to test the Tao heart of the great power because I have divine power and dharmic powers. The gods and Buddhas of Mount Lingshan claim to use compassion, wisdom, and perseverance to save all living beings. They are the Bodhisattva path. However, I want to expose one point. The so-called Bodhisattva path is the divine power and dharmic powers. The truth that surpasses all the Buddhist scriptures is, those with divine power, dharmic powers, strength, and authority can manipulate all the weak. The reason why Buddha is because he has power. Power is the truth that surpasses all compassion, wisdom, and perseverance. As for wisdom, perseverance, and courage, they are the conditions needed to obtain power. The pursuit of knowledge is the truth that controls all power. Bodhisattva is not the one who delivers all living beings from suffering. Gods and Buddhas are not the ones who save all living beings. They only obtain power through strength, courage, wisdom, and perseverance and manipulate all living beings. Chun-Ong sneered and said, "What difference is there between what I do and what Buddhas do? Why are they enlightening all living beings while I'm humiliating them? If that old baldy Rulai studies hard and understands the truth of this world, he will grasp power that surpasses me. Then, I welcome him to deliver me because he is practicing my truth. Practicing this world is objective, real, and cannot be changed by anyone's will. If you want to change the world and others, you can only rely on practice. You have to practice your will and overcome the resistance. That is power. If you want to practice changing this world, you need to understand this objective world. Therefore, all actions and practices rely on power, and all power comes from the understanding of the objective world. This is the objective and unchanging truth of this world. It's not what I've heard or what the gods and Buddhas have said. Tathagata doesn't talk about this truth, but talks about those metaphysical and illusory things. He's really deceiving all living beings and himself. By doing this, I want to let the great power realize its mistake of deceiving itself and deny that one-sided false truth, returning to the objective and real world. To realize that the so-called delivering all living beings from suffering is to use power to manipulate all living beings and use power to carry out one's will. Adding any praise to it is a false deception. Laozi sighed and said, "Celestial Venerable is extreme." Chun-Ong clenched his fists tightly again and smiled. "But at least I know what I'm doing." "Does Bodhisattva know? Why does Rulai say that I'm a devil?" "Because I'm close to the great Tao and wish to know all objective truths, and truth is only a one-sided truth. Therefore, when the truth of Buddhism is applied to the objective world, it will definitely be distorted. Because one-sided is added to the overall, and subjective is added to the objective, it will definitely be corrected by the objective world. If truth is flawed and verified in the world, it will definitely be tainted by the devil. Because the subjective is added to the objective, there will definitely be a reaction, and the one-sided truth will definitely contradict the real world. Therefore, the reaction of truth to the objective world is, devil. Laozi said Tao, Rulai said truth, and they all said that strength is strength. When strength is applied, there will definitely be a reaction. On the contrary, this is a devil. In the three realms and outside the three realms, all the Daozu and Buddhas have said that they have achieved the Tao. Only I, Chernong, am still pursuing it. The Tao that everyone has achieved is the Tao of strength, the one-sided Tao. The Tao that I seek is the ultimate truth, the objective Tao, the comprehensive Tao. Therefore, when the truth of everyone's Tao meets my Tao, it will be countered by me. Because everyone in this world has achieved Tao, and I am the closest to it, therefore everyone's one-sided truth is tainted by the devil, and I am the supreme. That is why that old man Rulai called me the primordial heavenly devil, not the primordial, but the primordial beginning. Meaning is the most fundamental, original, and essential, and I am the most essential devil of his truth. Therefore, I harm all truth, and harm all those who have achieved it. Tainted by the devil, it is the most objective correction of the objective world. All gods and Buddhas who forcefully claim their own Tao will be tainted by the devil. He, Rulai, teaches the people of the world, and I, the devil, will make his teachings a joke. Therefore, my descendants will wear his kasaya, and walk the devil's path in the name of Buddha. Why? It is just human nature. It originates from the heart, from one's nature, from the objective world, and from an objective existence. The power of the devil doesn't come from desire, nor does it come from demonic thoughts, it comes from the power of Buddha. When Buddha tries to change a person's nature, he will be countered by this objective nature. Therefore, in the future of Buddhism, the monks and bodhisattvas, greed, delusion, and anger will naturally come from the heart. The gods, Buddhas, and bodhisattvas think that this is the heavenly devil, devil, and demonic thoughts, and push it to Bo soon. He really doesn't know that I am the primordial heavenly devil. Chapter 925. Garuda King Mighty Virtue flew west for 6 hours before noticing that the vegetation on the ground was sparse. As far as the eye could see, all he could see was yellow sand. He knew that he had reached the Aparagodania state. After flying southwest for another 2 days, he would reach the western paradise of Sindh. He was overjoyed. He would be able to get rid of the filthy thing above him soon. However, the Jingmen god above him suddenly said, "Brother Bird, you've flown for a few hours. I believe you're far from the righteous canal. Monkey King probably won't be able to find you. I see traces of people below. Why don't we stop and rest for a while? What do you think, Brother Bird?" Jialulua Wang Dewada didn't care about what the bird said. He snorted coldly in his heart, "Brother Bird? Who's your brother bird? You filthy thing humiliated me. When I reach the great Thunderclap Monastery, I'll definitely torture you to vent my hatred." The Jingmen god saw that it ignored him, and asked a few more questions. Garuda King Mighty Virtue only cared about flying west. In the end, the Jingmen god said helplessly, "Brother Bird, you've misunderstood me too much. I'm the Golden Court Body God, born from the will of Monkey King's modified organs. He knows that this monitoring consciousness is my ability to settle down. Now that I'm rooted in the sarcoma of Brother Bird's heart, how can I not know your thoughts and consciousness fluctuations? When I first took root, Brother Bird still had a divine and unfathomable main consciousness. At that time, I interacted with it and deeply felt that this consciousness had a profound realm and was proficient in these things. It was able to see through the attachment of things and oneself, the existence and non-existence of things. Although it was too negative, willing to be mediocre, having the ability but not being a superhuman, it inevitably made people sigh. But he was also a wise man of the same path. I wanted to be a good friend. Unexpectedly, I only spoke a few words to him before he sealed himself and refused to communicate with me. He even released Brother Bird, his subsidiary personality. This shows how prejudiced the world is against me. The Jingman god sighed. Hearing his words, Widgaruda couldn't help but recall how Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva was forced to seal his consciousness. At the end of his patience, Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had no choice but to speak. "How dare you taint my body, you ignorant filth? Since you wish to escape, release my seal and I will save you. If you offend me in the slightest, I will let you know that my Buddha also has the Vajra fury and the flame of the Wisdom King." So Brother Bird is a disciple of the Western Paradise Buddhism sect. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord said happily, "I've long heard that the Western Paradise's Buddhists are unparalleled in dialectics and have high attainments in philosophy. The Sandgate Order did not accept female disciples. Masters, disciples, and brothers lived together day and night, debating with each other, exchanging words, and studying philosophy. The novice monk received teachings from the elders every night. It's the first organization in the three realms to systematically study philosophy. It really makes me yearn for it." The Spirit Gate Divine Lord only used 2 sentences to make Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva feel a fire burning in his heart, and his meditation was broken. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord was still nagging. "I once mentioned Buddhism to the Monkey King and asked him to send me over to debate philosophy with the Sand Gate Venerables, to study emptiness, materialism, and appearance. But he told me that there are countless temples under the great Thunderclap Monastery in the Western Paradise. Outside the sacred land of Mount Numinous, there are countless temples and Dharma realms, with tens of thousands of monks chanting and debating the Dharma. Every day their excrement can produce billions of kilograms. That Cindy farmer loves the excrement from this temple the most. Even the merchants who carry the excrement from the temples at the foot of Mount Numinous are more expensive than the others. I asked the Monkey King what was the reason behind this. The Monkey King told me, this excrement is different from the others. It's all from the masters, and when it's soaked, one load is worth 2 loads of excrement from the others. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva was furious, and his meditation turned to water. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord was still unaware and continued to court death. I'm laughing at the fact that the Monkey King must have remembered wrongly. There's no way he's poisoned. That Professor Chen's notes clearly said that Cindy's agriculture is very backward, and they haven't learned how to use excrement from the Central Plains. Shut up. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva couldn't help but reprimand, you're slandering Buddhism. Entering Avicii is like an arrow. Once you lose your human body, you'll never be able to come out, and you'll only suffer endless retribution. What followed next was the chanting of countless scriptures. The chanting was fast and messy, causing the Spirit Gate Divine Lord to feel dizzy and confused. Without the support of his psyche, the chanting of the scriptures was extremely dry, and the logic was laughable. If the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva still had his mana, he would naturally be able to use his lianhua to penetrate into the heart of others. However, Chen Ong had restricted his mana, causing his tongue to become clumsy. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord's head swelled, and he felt a headache coming on. He could only timidly ask, Can I interrupt for a moment? Shut up. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva was enraged, and his roar was as loud as a great bell. His murderous intent toward the Spirit Gate Divine Lord grew. Looking at the Spirit Gate Divine Lord's ugly appearance, he couldn't help but want to use his mana to send the Spirit Gate Divine Lord into the hell of Avicii. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord widened his only eye in extreme fear. The Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva wanted to use his mana, but he realized that his body was empty, and there was an uncomfortable feeling of emptiness. He was shocked and thought to himself, this is bad. That day when my fate was shaved, my wisdom and realm were shaved off. Now that I'm in the Bodhisattva realm, I'm like a tree without root. My heart is dry and my meditation is broken. My cultivation is in danger of regressing. This filthy thing isn't worth mentioning in front of me, but now it can trigger the fire in my heart. This is the heavenly demon Bo soon destroying my cultivation. This is a great calamity. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord immediately took the opportunity to seal his consciousness and stop feeling the outside world, cutting off the source of his troubles. While the Spirit Gate Divine Lord was still afraid of the Bodhisattva's anger, he saw the strange bird close its eyes, and its consciousness shrunk to the deepest part of the sea of consciousness. It entered a submerged state, and another consciousness that was 100 times weaker took over the body. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord took the opportunity to jump onto the strange bird's head. He cut open the tumor with a scalpel and transplanted his blood vessels and nerves with the Garuda bird's heart. Feeling the blood chi and essence chi nourishing his body, the Spirit Gate Divine Lord sighed in satisfaction. The transplant is finally a success. It just left Zhou body, and without the nourishment of blood chi, it's too cold. Cold and tired. It's better to have a body. Kidney, I'll do the transplant for you now. Therefore, when he woke up, he felt that there was a vertical fleshy crown-like object on his head, and a kidney on his back. Garuda King Wade thought about it hatefully, and for a moment, he gritted his teeth. His anger caused his blood chi to rush to his head, and he immediately felt that thing on his head stand up again. He was so embarrassed that he wanted to die, and he couldn't take it anymore. I'll fight it out with you, Garuda King Wade roared in his heart. Disregarding everything else, he rammed his head against a cliff. He flew at an extremely fast speed, and it seemed like he wanted to perish together with his enemy. The rocks on the cliff were as sharp as knives. Although the Garuda bird had a body of steel, it couldn't withstand such a ramming. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord sighed, and there were many laments in it. He lamented that he wasn't understood by the people of the world, and he lamented their ignorance and prejudice. Just as the massacre was about to take place, a demon king that was flying in the sky suddenly stopped in his tracks and said in surprise, "Why does this fellow have such a strange appearance? It actually has a handle on its head. What a waste of its gorgeous feathers. Is it trying to commit suicide by ramming its head against the cliff again? This fellow must have been wronged, and I can't just stand by and watch. Big Brother has gathered all the demon kings to find that monkey king, and he wants me to invite all the bird kings from all over the world. Although this fellow has a wretched appearance and a low cultivation base, he can still be of use." Chapter 926. But before the Rock Demon King could make a move, he saw the strange bird's peculiar flesh crown suddenly erect, and a milky white brilliance shot out from its single eye. It shrouded the body of the strange bird like a white cloud barrier. The Rock Demon King was shocked, and subconsciously withdrew his demonic power to save it. But the strange bird shrouded in milky white clouds crashed into the cliff, like a huge hammer, smashing the razor-like rocks on the cliff into pieces. The Rock Demon King saw the strange bird let out a long, sad and indignant cry. Like the collision of metal and stone, it had an earth-shattering momentum. The strange bird became more and more indignant. After letting out a long cry, it only slammed its head into the surrounding boulders and cliffs, as if it wanted to destroy the jade and stone together. But under the protection of the milky white brilliance, it smashed into the rocks, and the cliffs collapsed. 1,000 feet tall mountain was smashed into the belly of the mountain, and in an instant, it broke in the middle and collapsed with a loud bang. Seeing this, not only did the strange bird not stop, but it became more and more frenzied. This made the Rock Demon King could not help but sigh, such unyielding, there must be a strange grievance. I really don't know what kind of difficulties can force such a strange bird with such amazing bones, and a rock-cracking cry to such a state. I should find out its feelings, and do my best to help, so as to befriend such a strange bird. In the future, I will be able to be an arm. Then he opened his mouth and blew, and a dark demonic wind followed, blowing the sky and the earth, making the sun and moon lose their light. The wind blew past the mountain rocks, and the grass and trees were uprooted and swept into the sky. The crazy strange bird had to temporarily stop in the face of this wind, and it was dizzy in this wind, almost unable to open its eyes. The rock demon king used the demonic wind to wrap Wade in front of him, and stop the spell. He cupped his fists and said, "Brother, I heard the noise in the sky, and came to check, but I saw that you seemed to have the intention to die, and you hit the cliff with your head, but you released a treasure light to protect yourself, so it was difficult to succeed. I am not talented, and I live in the hanging ridge of the great wilderness, and have become sworn brothers with 6 brothers, to fight against the demon emperor, equal to heaven great emperor Monkey King. People call me great sage of chaotic heaven's rock demon king. Brother, I wonder what grievances you have to suffer such torment? If it's possible, there's no harm in telling me. If there really is a reason, I, as a member of the heavenly cycle's feather race, Demon King Bird, will definitely not stand idly by." Monkey King. Hearing these 3 words, Widgaruda lifted his head, gnashed his teeth, and roared. "Monkey King! Monkey King! Heaven's equal demon emperor! Monkey King! You humiliated me like this, you actually humiliated me like this. I'm going to cut you into 1,000 pieces and serve you with wine." Hearing this, the rock demon king was shocked and thought to himself, "It's that Monkey King again. I wonder what's the inside story that made these demon kings hate the Monkey King so much." This monkey was unbridled and unbridled. The demon kings of the world had indeed suffered for a long time. With a wave of his arm, so many demon monarchs responded. "Every time I see a demon of the same race, I feel hatred. Seeking revenge on Sunday is indeed a blessing from the heavens. It's in line with the will of the demons." Widgaruda vented for a while before calming down. Seeing this uninvited demon, his eyes flashed and he cupped his fist. "So it's Rock Demon King. I'm the great golden-winged Rock King of the Aparagodania continent. I came to the Nanjan section continent to visit a friend. When I passed by the Dragon Suppression Mountain, I was kidnapped by the Monkey King and tortured. I only managed to get out of the demon's lair today, so I lost my composure." "I see." The Rock Demon King sighed. "This Monkey King is utterly heartless. He actually kidnapped a fellow demon and tortured you. Looking at your cultivation, I should be older than you. Since we're both from the rock race, I'll be thick-skinned and call you brother. Brother, what did you suffer at the hands of the Monkey King? Tell me, I'll help you." Widgaruda King took advantage of the situation and immediately burst into tears. He said sorrowfully, "Big brother, that Sun Wukong isn't a son. He's shameless and despicable. He has committed many evil deeds and is extremely evil. I'm a man with a dignified face. After I fell into his hands, this monkey tied me up and brought me up to the stage. He stabbed me with knives and axes and tortured me. He wanted to refine me into a medicinal herb and a puppet. Brother, can you see the filth on my head? It was the one who put it on me." The Rock Demon King exclaimed in shock, "There's actually such a tragedy?" He was shocked and angry at the same time. He said with lingering fear, "I didn't expect Sun Wukong to be so cruel." He looked at the ugly flesh crown of King Jia Luolu and could not bear to look at it. "No wonder brother touched the cliff with your head. You wanted to smash this flesh crown into pieces." God Lord Jingmen couldn't help but explain after listening to Widgaruda King's nonsense. "Why are you guys so prejudiced against science? The Monkey King didn't want to harm your life. Isn't it glorious to sacrifice yourself for science? It's far better than your mediocrity. Listen to my advice. Get rid of your prejudice and treat me with sincerity. Bring me around the 3 realms to fulfill your ideals, research science, and comprehend philosophy. I'll guarantee you a brighter future. It's better than being an ignorant fool." Rock Demon King saw the flesh crown's eye open and closed. He stood up in shock. This thing can actually talk. Garuda King said angrily. Not only can it talk. Brother, this filth can even use divine arts to force me. You saw the demonic light that protected me. It was released by it. The Monkey King must have created this evil thing to control the demons in the world. He wants to make him the emperor of the demons. His evil intentions should be put to death. Brother, please help me get rid of this thing. Garuda King didn't need to pretend. He was filled with endless grief and indignation. The Rock Demon King's expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, Brother, this isn't just about you. It's about Sun Wukong forcing us Demon Kings to enslave us. It's a matter for all demons. If the Monkey King succeeds, will there still be a place for us to live freely in the three realms? Will there still be a place for us to live? Brother, don't worry. I, Rock Demon King, will take responsibility for this. Even if I can't do it, there's still my brother, Bull Demon King, and a few other Demon Kings with high cultivation. We must eradicate this thing. God Lord Jingmen couldn't help but say, Listen to me. The Monkey King and I are pursuing the truth of science. We don't want to enslave you. This kind of thinking is sick. Have you heard of persecutory delusion? I'm just looking for a mount. I have no intention of controlling you. Did you hear that? If I want to control you, I have 10,000 ways to make you have no choice. God Lord Jingmen said earnestly to the huge bird he was sitting on. But I've always been tolerant, understanding, and friendly. I've tried to get you to put down your prejudice and discrimination. I've tried to get you to understand and tolerate each other. Chapter 9:27. The Rock Demon King's face was solemn as he observed the sarcoma on Garuda's head. Brother, he said solemnly, is the root of this filth your heart acupoint? Garuda's face was solemn as he shouted, Brother, there is no need to be afraid. Even without my heart acupoint, I will remove this filth and restore my pure body. The Rock Demon King tried his best to persuade him. Brother, there is no need to be like this. My brother, the Bull Demon King, is stronger than me and this thing is troublesome for me. But with his help, there might be a solution. Brother, think twice. Garuda said, Brother, there is no need to persuade me. Only I know the depth of this filth's roots, and I have the heart to be disgraced. Even if I lose my heart, I will eradicate this thing. God Lord Jingmen also sighed and said, Why did we have to go to this extent where we are irreconcilable enemies? If you don't want me to merge with you, then say it. How would I know what you are thinking if you don't say it? If you say it, I will find a way to find a willing host. Why is there such a deep prejudice against me in the three realms? Forget it. Forget it. You don't have to cut out my heart, I will leave. You still want to leave. Garuda gritted his teeth. Even if I lose my heart, I will grind your bones to dust. Brother, do it. Garuda suddenly shouted. The Rock Demon King's eyes flashed. The rock feather in his hand slashed down and cut off the sarcoma on Garuda's head. Pure green blood splattered as the sarcoma fell down along with the ugly flesh crown. King Garuda let out a painful cry as the poison accumulated by the poison-eating dragon in his body immediately flared up. A strand of green-black gas rose from his abdomen and instantly stained his chin. Even so, Garuda still tried to kill Lord Jingmen. The hatred in his heart was greater than his life, and even if he died from the poison, Mahistamaprapta Bodhisattva could resurrect him after the calamity. But this humiliation was something he would never be able to erase for all eternity. The Spirit Gate Divine Lord sighed. Why bother? Huang Ting's body and spirit had innate magical powers. Primordial Elixir Lord could produce blood essence to increase the strength of the dragon elephant. Brain Lord was divine and had a myriad of thoughts. On the other hand, my divine ability can be big or small, and it's all-pervasive. It's the #1 escape technique amongst the Golden Hall divine abilities. Kidneys! Lord Godxian jumped out from the hump on King Garuda's back and laughed. My kidney spirit's supernatural power is endless mana and essence chi. Sir God Xian and Sir God Spirit Gate said in unison, "Once we combine our divine powers, we will be able to transcend beyond the mortal world. We will be able to form the number one escape divine power among the Golden Hall's divine powers, seamless entry and exit, transcending the mortal world." As soon as he finished his sentence, a ray of white light shot out from Sir God Jingman's eye and enveloped Sir God Xian and himself. In an instant, it shrunk into a ray of white light and disappeared into the void. Garuda spat out a mouthful of green blood. His face was ashen as he said in defeat, "Since your escape arts are superb, why did you possess my body and humiliate me? Can't you escape by yourselves?" "We can't." Sir God Jingman's voice came from the void. "Even if I have the number one escape technique among the Golden Hall divine abilities, seamless entry and exit, it's no match for the Monkey King's 3 realms in one thought and quantum amorphous cloud. I can pierce through space and enter the tiny wormholes in the void, but the Monkey King is omnipresent. He is entangled with any quantum in the 3 realms. Therefore, the 3 realms is the Monkey King, and the Monkey King is the 3 realms." Originally, there was Gautama Buddha who used his supreme psyche to protect the West, preventing its quantum from entangling with the Monkey King. That's why I wanted to use you to escape to the Spirited Mountain in the West. Unfortunately, Sir God Brain just sent me a message. Gautama Buddha of Spirited Mountain is meditating and fighting against an otherworldly demon in neither thought nor thought heaven. Spirited Mountain is no longer protected by anyone, so I have to go to the Heaven Court. That's why I had to part ways with you. So, King Garuda's face was completely black. The poison of the dragon had entered his brain and cut off his life force. His face was ashen as he said, "You were planning to leave?" There was no reply from the void. It was unknown if Sir God Jingman could not bear to expose the cruel truth, or if he had already left for the Heaven Court. King Wide Garuda could no longer suppress the Jiao dragon poison in his body. He convulsed and fainted. The Rock Demon King was shocked and shouted, "Brother? Brother?" He tested Garuda's breathing and thought, "Oh no, my brother's heart is being attacked by the poison. He's in grave danger. Only Big Brother can save him now." As soon as he finished, he carried King Wide Garuda on his back and headed towards the east. As he was leading the way, he saw the blood in the sarcoma of his heart slowly coagulating. The color was clear and green, and it was about to condense into a glazed pearl. He knew that this was the key to suppressing the poison in his brother's body, so he swallowed it. The rock race was born to devour all things. There was a huge space in their abdomen, like a space opened up by the cosmos withdrawing sleeve. The rock race was used to hiding their treasures there. Unexpectedly, the pearl was not limited by the rock race's natural supernatural power. It broke through the space and turned into a warm current that flowed into the Rock Demon King's abdomen. The Rock Demon King was shocked, but he did not find anything unusual when he used his mana to check his body. Moreover, saving the demon was more important, so he suppressed his doubts and flew straight to where the Bull Demon King was. He did not know that the Garuda bird of Aparagodania was also known as the Golden-Winged Rock. It was also a branch of the rock race. The nature of the rock race was better than supernatural power. The Tao of reproduction was the highest judgment among their natural instincts. There was a saying that the combination of yin and yang was superior to all other laws. That was why the Rock Demon King was helpless against it. After the Rock Demon King flew away, a golden light flew out from the void and turned into a macaque. It was the Monkey King. The Monkey King laughed. "I came all the way from Aeoli Nation, and this is the first time I've seen 2 males pregnant. This Rock Demon King is really pitiful, and that Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva has violated the precept of lust. I wonder who that Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva has offended to have such bad luck. But thinking about it, only my black-hearted master would do such a thing." Before the Monkey King could finish laughing, a bolt of lightning appeared out of nowhere. It crossed the boundaries of time and space and struck the Monkey King's head, causing him to fall to the ground. The Monkey King hurriedly shouted, "Master, I was wrong. Don't strike me any more." Hearing this, the faint lightning in the sky dissipated. The Monkey King heaved a sigh of relief and thought, "My master is a narrow-minded person, I can't say bad things about him anymore. The Rock Demon King's pregnancy is really a rare thing. I have to follow behind it and study it secretly. I want to see if I can create a supernatural power that can impregnate those deities and Buddhas." Chapter 928. Devdatta looked at his cousin, Siddhartha Gautama, sitting between the twin Sala trees in Bana city. His face was lonely as he sat cross-legged in front of the Gautama Buddha. After Sakyamuni, Devdatta was the most intelligent and talented person among the many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who were reincarnated with Buddha into the mortal world. Even the four great Bodhisattvas like Samantabhadra and Manjushri would find it hard to break through the realm of truth and enter the lowest level of the three realms' dimensional entanglement. Outside of Brahma, they would be able to see Brahma and confront Buddha Tathagata in Brahma. Only Devdatta could come into contact with the realm of reality. He was just one step away from breaking through all nothingness and entering the highest realm of colorless dhyana, escaping into the three realms of Anapanjana and Anapanjana to lend Rulai a hand. However, when he told Sakya, Mani, and the other disciples about this, he was unanimously opposed. Sariputta had even used Sakyamani's last words to forbid him from searching for the place where Sakyamani's consciousness had gone after entering meditation. However, Devdatta was the number one person in the Buddhist sect, second only to the Gautama Buddha. He had many followers. Even in the great Lain temple of Spirited Mountain, Devdatta was the leader of the 8 great protectors. Even the 4 great Bodhisattvas and the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva could only lead the Garuda tribe, but Devdatta could lead an entire tribe by himself. A beautiful and dignified monk quietly came behind him. Devdatta didn't even open his eyes and said, "Ananda, do you still want to persuade me?" Outside the colorless realm, the revered one of the worlds beyond heavens, Brahman, yet you don't allow me to help. Are you afraid that I will obtain enlightenment from the revered one and destroy the nonsense of Shariputra and Subhuti? Ananda stooped down and touched Devdatta's feet. He said respectfully, "Brother, in the past, Buddha and the Jade Emperor had a discussion. We asked the sky-bearing empire to follow the example of the Hutu Emperor and give up samsara. You once objected angrily, saying that the 6 paths of reincarnation's division of good and evil is not the right path. All living beings arise from fate and perish because of fate. Everything is impermanent. Every reincarnation should be a brand new individual. I don't want to bring the troubles of my previous life to the future. Great monarch Hutu is selfless and selfless. She sees the living beings as nothing but dogs. That is the most benevolent heart, far surpassing the 6 paths reincarnation. The revered one of His Majesty's Dipankara ancient Buddha was annihilated, seizing the 4 protectors of the celestial being, Asura, Kinnara, and Dragon tribes. Only after he was reborn with the Biji Buddha did he bestow the Kinnara and Dragon tribes to him. Later on, before the 300 tribulations, the revered one of the world discussed with the Jade Emperor to set up the net of karma so that all living beings would be rewarded for their good and evil deeds. You spoke out against it, saying that all living beings are impermanent, therefore they are sorrowful and suffering. Being able to give birth to a transcendent heart is the first cause of the 4 wonderful truths. Therefore, opportunities are impermanent, karma is impermanent, and there is no such thing as karma. The revered one of the world took away your dragon tribe's protector as punishment. Now that Manjushri and Samantabhadra have obtained scriptures from the outer world cult master, they want to set up the karmic retribution of good and evil in order to promote the Bodhisattva hammer and the path of Mahayana. They want to open up the Pure Land to enlighten all living beings. Shariputra, Subhuti, and the rest agreed. You scolded them in front of them, saying that the Pure Land is an external path and that reincarnation can't save all living beings. There are only 3 seals: impermanence, anatta, and nirvana, to transcend the sea of suffering. Devdatta finally opened his eyes and stared at Anand angrily. The mind is free from the mind, free from worries, free from thoughts, free from desires, free from desires, free from desires, no gain, no life, Bodhi, all illusions are complete, there is no coming nor going, the nature of life and death is real, there is no life and no death, the mind shows the Tripitaka is silent, called nirvana, this is the right path of enlightenment. The Dharma can only enlighten oneself, not others. Sakyamuni is an enlightened being, not a deity. The 3 subtleties and 3 bodhi of a mudra do not seek external help, nor do they seek bodhisattva's help. Instead, they seek inward and learn Buddhism. The other side of the sea of bitterness, with the enlightenment of Sakyamuni, was like a bright lamp in the sea of bitterness, illuminating the path ahead, but he could not help. To guide people to the Nirvana realm boat is to rely on one's own heart and strength. Nowadays, some people say that the wisdom of Sakyamuni is like the golden bridge on the sea of bitterness. The Nirvana realm is not in the silence of Nirvana, but in the 3 realms and the Pure Land. This is the saying of the heterodox demons. The 3 realms is a sea of bitterness, and the Pure Land is also a sea of bitterness. Manjushri, Samantabhadra, and deceiving all living beings use the Pure Land of the sea of bitterness as the shore of the Paramitha. Only by not being able to attain enlightenment and not knowing nirvana can one transcend the troubles. What an evil demon! The karma of samsara, the cause and effect of good and evil are constant, not impermanent. The Bodhisattva hammer and the great vehicle of salvation say that there is self, not non-self. The Pure Land and the land of ultimate bliss say that there is Paramitha, not nirvana. Devdatta opened his eyes wide and shouted angrily, "Isn't that against the 3 seals? Using the words of gods and Buddhas to deceive all living beings in the 3 realms. Bodhisattvas should be killed." The words of the revered one of the world. In addition to the 3 seals, there is also the seal of reality. Ananda explained. Who is the revered one? Devdatta asked indifferently, is it Buddha Tathagata or Sakyamuni? Or Gautama Siddhartha? Ananda exclaimed in shock, Devdatta, do you doubt Buddha? 1,000 tribulations ago, the revered one of the world preached to me. He once said, if you obtain the Buddha's seal, you will be unobstructed. If you obtain the king's seal, there will be no difficulties. Even if it is not what the revered one of the world has said, those who have obtained the 3 Dharma seals can also be regarded as Buddha's words. Even if it is Buddha's words, those who violate the 3 Dharma seals are also heretical. Devdatta said calmly, this is my revered one of the world. After I was demoted from the position of Dipankara ancient Buddha, I was once disheartened. I meditated on the 3 tribulations and wanted to undergo nirvana and perish, following the venerable of the world. Finally, in meditation, he thoroughly understood that the revered one of the world was the one who had attained the truth of the world. He was Sakyamuni. Before 1,000 tribulations, the revered one was still the revered one. After 1,000 tribulations, Tathagata was no longer the revered one. Gods are not Buddhas. Buddha is an enlightened one, not a god, nor can he enlighten people. Today's Buddha Tathagata is the Buddha's troubles, the manifestation of your troubles. It is the Buddha in the hearts of all living beings, but it is not my Buddha. It is a devil. Devdatta. Ananda stood up in shock and said, are you going to betray Buddha? Ananda. Devdatta smiled and said, my younger brother, after I understood this principle, my meditation was shaken. When I became an ancient Buddha, I could already meditate to the 4 skies and beyond the colorless realm to see the truth of the world. After my meditation was shaken, I was trapped in the colorless realm. Now that the extraterrestrial evil demon, Brahman, is attacking, I can finally verify whether Buddha Tathagata is the revered one of the world. If Buddha Tathagata is close to Brahman, then Buddha Tathagata is an unorthodox evil demon, the revered one of the troubles of becoming Buddha. If Buddha Tathagata is not Brahman, then I will die in nirvana and leave in peace. Devdatta smiled and said to Ananda. Behind him, 500 Buddhas and 3,000 guardians of Dharma Kinara walked out. They were all his followers. The ancient Buddhas of Spirited Mountain were now led by Biji Buddha. They sat around Gautama Siddhartha and Devdatta, watching the result of his meditation to find Buddha. There were 3,000 Buddhas in Spirited Mountain, and each of them was different. In the past, there were 1,000 Buddhas in the ancient Buddhas. After Dipankara fell, 300 of them left. After being reprimanded by the Buddhas, another 200 of them left. Now there were only 500 Biji Buddhas. Under the withering and flourishing trees, Devdatta died and went to the Anisattva heaven. Ananda's meditation was shaken. He looked at Devdatta's corpse in shock. After a day and night, Ananda saw Devdatta's corpse open his eyes and shed tears of blood. Biji Buddha Kinara descended from the sky. He cried out 3 times in grief and laughed crazily. He shouted, "The revered one of the world is dead. Buddhas, follow me to destroy Spirited Mountain." All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are evil followers. Only impermanence can awaken one's heart and make one realize righteousness. I want all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to sink into the sea of bitterness. Spirited Mountain and Pure Land become, exist, and disappear. All Buddhas are impermanent, good and evil are impermanent, cause and effect are impermanent. Follow me to break the 6 realms and confuse good and evil. Turn into an external evil and set up a trial for Buddhas. The righteous Dharma is dead and the unorthodox path is rampant. The final trial is impossible. I am the lawless heaven. Chapter 929. In the Garden of Solitude, a bhikkhu rushed in and knelt before Fu Lu. He said with a trembling voice, Venerable Sariputta sent news that Devdatta and his 500 disciples have joined the devil. They have injured Venerable Ananda and swore to destroy Spirited Mountain and make all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas fall into the sea of bitterness. You're late, Fu Lu said with his back facing him. The bhikkhu raised his head in shock and carefully walked to Fu Lu. A black palm print was imprinted on Fu Lu's chest, shattering his golden body. Fu Lu was long dead. Just when he was scared out of his wits, Fu Lu's broken golden body suddenly said, Don't be afraid. This is my last thought before I perish. I'll leave it to you. Devdatta has already joined the devil. He came to discuss Dharma with me. I'm known as the number 1 under the revered Buddha, but I couldn't defeat Devdatta's shocking evil thoughts. Later on, I forced myself to fight, but he broke my golden body and perished in 3 moves. Pass my last words to Sariputta. After joining the devil, Devdatta's supernatural power has improved tremendously. Not even Sariputta, Subhuti, Mahaka Kasyapa, Mujyanlian, and Analu could defeat him. Protect Venerable Analu. He has the number 1 heavenly eye and is the only one who can see through Devdatta's movements. After me, Devdatta's next target is him. Mahaka Kasyapa can distinguish deep meaning and apply it to Taoism. That's why he's known as the number 1 in the discussion of meaning. I'm afraid he's already in trouble before me. Because we're the best at discussing Dharma, Devdatta tried to refute the Dharma passed down by the revered Buddha. That's why he came to us first. What Devdatta wants is to destroy the Mahayana realm. We, the 10 great disciples, are all Shengwen Mahayana and Yuanjue Mahayana. Devdatta is an evil follower. He wants to shake our Zen hearts and turn us into his minions. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain are all disciples of Mahayana. The Bodhisattva hammer is an outsider in Devdatta's eyes. He won't subdue them and must kill them all. Devdatta, a disciple of the three Mahayana, led the Bodhisattva Mahayana to rebel against Buddhism, fighting for the support of the Arhats of the Vajrayana Mahayana. Go and tell Shariputra about my worries. I'm afraid that among the top 10 disciples, there might be someone who will side with Devdatta. After Fu Luna finished speaking, he kowtowed and bowed his head. He did not speak any more, as if a trace of ignorance and vexation had already left. The bhikkhu disciple knelt for a long time, but he did not hear Fu Luna's mantra any more. He had no choice but to endure his grief, get up, and prepare to leave this dangerous place. Before he left and closed the door of the hall, he suddenly heard Fu Lu's voice that seemed to have hesitated for a long time and finally could not help but warn him, "Be careful of Ananda and Ro." The bhikkhu looked up, but Fu Luna's golden body was dim and unresponsive. He did not know if it was Fu Lu's last message or his illusion. A day later, Shariputra, Mugyanlian, and Subhuti arrived from Bishali city. When they saw the broken golden body of Fu Luna, their faces were filled with anger and grief. Shariputra went forward and asked Fu Luna's golden body to be placed together with the golden body of Jiazhanyan that he brought. He said to the disciples of the Revered One who descended with the Revered One, "Devdatta has already betrayed Buddha. Fu Luna and Jiazhanyan were both harmed by him and have already entered the cycle of samsara." The disciples all revealed a sorrowful expression. They put their palms together and remained silent. The atmosphere was very depressing. Shariputra saw the sorrow in the disciples' hearts, so he stood at the head and said solemnly, 2 days ago, Ananda came to me and told me that Devdatta had disobeyed the Revered One's decree and entered the Dhyana heaven to find the place where the Revered One fought against Brahman. After he came out of the Dhyana heaven, he immediately betrayed Buddha. Mugyanlian said, Devdatta had slandered Buddha several times and questioned the Revered One's true words and decrees. The Revered One had issued decrees to belittle him twice. It's not surprising that he would commit such a great betrayal. We should invite the Bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain to come and slay this devil together. He will be banished to hell and suffer immeasurable suffering. Shariputra did not act rashly. Instead, he pondered and said, Devdatta came to this world as the cousin of the Revered One. Moreover, he has always been highly respected. Many bhikkhus and bhikkhunis are confused by him. Many Buddhas and Arhats of Spirited Mountain are also shaken. Now, calming the hearts of the people is the most important thing. Otherwise, if more sons of Buddha follow him into the devil, it will be a great disaster for Spirited Mountain Buddhism. Mugyanlian said, May I ask, senior apprentice brother, how can we calm the hearts of the people? Shariputra pondered for a long time and said, Before the 1,000 tribulations, Devdatta was the Dipankara ancient Buddha. He was the leader of the ancient Mahayana. Now that the Revered One has comprehended the Mahayana, Bodhisattva Mahayana, Devdatta has questioned and rebelled. There are many followers of the ancient Buddhas. Now in Spirited Mountain, the ancient Buddhas are living in seclusion. But if Devdatta raises his flag, other than his 500 followers, many will be shaken. Therefore, Devdatta cannot be the Dipankara ancient Buddha. Dipankara ancient Buddha has already perished. Mahakasyapa stepped out and said, Junior apprentice brother is here. Shariputra ordered him, Go to Spirited Mountain and look for the relic left by the Revered One when he ordered the Dipankara ancient Buddha to perish. This relic is the former position of Devdatta and can restrain him. Shariputra continued, Devdatta entered the devil, but he was limited to Bodhisattva Mahayana and Arhat Buddhahood. He did not see the Mahayana and used the Hinayana Buddhism to question the Mahayana Buddhism. You must know that the Mahayana is above the Hinayana. For example, the ox cart comes out of the house of fire. Using the Hinayana Dharma Mudra to doubt the Mahayana Bodhisattva Tao is like asking for alms and doubting the boat. It is self-righteous. But now, the arhats who have cultivated the Hinayana still have doubts about the true Dharma. Therefore we cannot say so. After thinking for a long time, Shariputra ordered Aboa, Venerable Aboa, go and tell the disciples that Devdatta committed the 5 sins of treason and plotted to kill the revered one. He ordered 500 disciples to throw stones to kill the Buddha but failed. Then, he threw a huge stone at Mount Jiraiya. Although the stone was blocked by the deity Jin Pila, the Buddha's foot was injured and bled. Then, when the Buddha entered the king's temple, he released a wild elephant to harm him. However, the elephant surrendered to the Buddha and failed. After the revered one reprimanded him, he did not change his evil thoughts and beat the lotus flower bhikkhuni to death. He also poisoned his 10 fingers and claws, intending to hurt the Buddha by worshipping the Buddha's foot. However, the Buddha's foot was as hard as a rock. Devdatta broke his own fingers and died there. Aboa was shocked. Devdatta died? Then how do you explain that evil demon? Shariputra sneered. That evil demon is King Kinara of the 8 guardians of Spirited Mountain. After Kinara cultivated to become a bodhisattva, he did not listen to my advice and went to see Brahman. Because he saw Brahman, he fell into the devil and called himself Wutian. Only then can we eliminate Devdatta's influence and prevent him from bewitching the Arhat. Aboa obeyed and left. Muchian said, but that evil demon is rampant and we cannot let him go. Senior Marshal Brother, please invite the Bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain with me to subdue this demon. Shariputra said, although Devdatta is a great threat, that Brahman who transformed into Brahman is an unparalleled demon that forced the revered one to meditate. Also, that immeasurable heavenly Lord who came from the west is not a good person either. Compared to those 2 demons, Devdatta is not a big threat. If we only pay attention to him, the other 2 demons will take the opportunity to cause trouble and we will be in danger. Muchian said, what does Senior Marshal Brother think? Chapter 930. The Rock Demon King flew to where the demons were gathered. His speed was extremely fast, and with a flap of his wings, he could fly 90,000 miles away. Although he was carrying the burden of Garuda, it only took a little more effort. Halfway there, the Rock Demon King sensed something was wrong. He endured the nausea churning in his stomach, and spread his 3 wings into 2, rushing to where the Bull Demon King was gathered. The Bull Demon King was having a banquet with a group of demon kings when he heard his subordinate report, the 3 kings are back. He hurriedly got up to welcome them. Just as he got up, he saw the Rock Demon King stumbling over with his forehead beaded with sweat. The Bull Demon King went up to support him, exclaiming, "Third brother, why did you come back so weak? Why didn't you invite the Bird Kings over? I'm quite eloquent and have a rough understanding of the art of medicine. I wonder if Brother Nyo is willing to let me try?" Among the guests invited by the Bull Demon King was a pure white old fox. He was the most senior and kind. It was said that he had lived for 10,000 years, hence the title of 10,000 Fox King. Seeing the Rock Demon King's bad expression, he invited him. "Then I'll leave it to you, sir." The Bull Demon King had also heard of the 10,000 Fox King's abilities. He was old and shrewd, and the fox race was the most cunning. This 10,000 Fox King definitely had some skills. The 10,000 Fox King immediately helped the Rock Demon King to sit down and tried to feel his pulse. Suddenly, he showed a look of surprise and frowned, causing the Bull Demon King to worry. After a long while, he let go of the Rock Demon King's wrist, his expression uncertain. He gave the Bull Demon King a look and followed him out of the cave, avoiding the Rock Demon King. The Bull Demon King said worriedly, "Sir, how is my brother?" The 10,000 Fox King hesitated. He's fine. It's just that he was in too much of a hurry and affected the fetus." "The fetus is affected. Bull Demon King's expression was as if he had been struck by lightning. He asked in a daze, "What do you mean by affected? The fetus is affected?" He came back to his senses and exclaimed, "How can my brother have the fetus? 10,000 Fox King, you have to give me a proper explanation. Did you make a mistake?" The 10,000 Fox King thought for a moment and asked, "Brother Nyo, think carefully. What is the original form of your brother, Rock Demon King?" The Bull Demon King was stunned. "Of course he is the original form of the rock. What does this have to do with the fetal chi?" The 10,000-year-old Fox King was experienced and knowledgeable. He said softly, "I've heard that there's a type of golden-winged rocks in the West. They're neither male nor female, and they don't need to be nurtured by yin and yang to become pregnant. So," the Bull Demon King's expression crumbled as he said, "so even my brother can get pregnant." At this time, the Rock Demon King had already caught his breath. He shouted, "Big Brother Ox King, don't worry about me. Saving people is more important. On my way back, I met a fellow clansman. He was heavily injured and is on the verge of death. Please save him, Ox King." The 10,000-year-old Old Fox King nodded repeatedly and said, "That's right. It must have been the meeting of two golden-winged rocks. One took its crown and placed it in the belly of the Pring King, thus giving birth to it." The Bull Demon King rushed out to take a look and was instantly shocked. An insensible Demon King beside him joked, "Isn't this the strange bird that you hit?" The Bull Demon King's expression was awkward. He hurriedly signaled to the Demon Kings beside him with his eyes, telling them to pull the insensible one away. At this time, the 10,000-year-old Fox King had already consciously gone forward to save him. After a round of massage, the greenish-black chi on King Jiaoluolo's face subsided. Only then did the Bull Demon King have time to consider. Not good, Brother Rock King actually found a lover the moment he left. If he knew that I had accidentally hurt my brother's wife, wouldn't it ruin our brotherhood? He slowly walked into the cave abode. Seeing the anxious and expectant look on the Rock Demon King's face, he felt even more guilty. He said gently, "Brother Rock, don't worry. With the Fox King here to save you, your wife should be fine. As for you, don't disturb the fetus." His words were all over the place. "What, your wife, disturb the fetus," and so on. The Rock Demon King was confused and very confused. It was said that a pregnant woman would be stupid for 3 years. After the Rock Demon King's belly gave birth to the fetus, his reaction was much slower. He lowered his head and thought for a long time before coming back to his senses. He said in shock, "Brother, what nonsense are you talking about? If you continue like this, don't blame me for disregarding the brotherhood and falling out with you." The Bull Demon King said, "Rock King, don't be anxious. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have accidentally hurt my sister-in-law after drinking." This entanglement and misunderstanding made the Rock Demon King's expression change on the spot. He picked up the phoenix wing-gilded drum and was about to fall out with the Bull Demon King. A group of Demon Kings went up and tried to stop and persuade him. It was very chaotic. The Bull Demon King was in the wrong after all. He thought that his accidental injury had been exposed, so he didn't dare to fight back. The group of people argued for a long time before explaining. The Monkey King cast an invisibility spell and crossed his legs to watch the show from the top of the cave. After the Rock Demon King knew the truth, he was completely dumbfounded on the spot. He circulated his demonic chi to disperse the fetus in his belly. When he used his magic power, he felt pain. The 10,000-year-old Fox King hurriedly stopped him. "Rock King, don't move recklessly. The fusion of the fetus is part of your nature. It's entangled with your life. If you continue, I'm afraid you'll lose half your life." The Rock Demon King shouted, "So be it. If people find out and give birth to a child, would I still have the face to be a demon? Fox King, I know your medical skills are profound. Quickly help me abort this evil fetus, lest I'll be ashamed for half my life and live a life worse than death." The 10,000-year-old Fox King had never done such a strange thing as abort a man's fetus. He turned pale with fright. Even if you abort the fetus, you're a man. You don't have a birth canal, so how are you going to get out? Moreover, I've never been a midwife before, so I have no experience. The Rock Demon King saw that his belly was getting bigger and said in panic, "How can it be so fast? The waves of turbulence are very tight, it must be the pain of breaking the formation. I've only swallowed that sarcoma for half a day, why am I having such a sudden rush?" The 10,000-year-old Fox King explained, "You've forgotten that the birds and feather species all transform from eggs, unlike viviparous birth where they have a shape when they're born. The fetal chi will be used to form an egg in your belly, and after the egg is laid, the fetus will be nurtured in the egg. Even the golden rock is like that. I'm afraid it's going to be born in half a day." The Rock Demon King's face was ashen. He hardened his heart, took out a dagger, and was about to cut open his belly to take out the fetus. The Bull Demon King couldn't bear to see this and said, "Brother, this is your flesh and blood fetus after all. How can you be so cruel to take out a bloody ball? Isn't it frightening? Listen to me, I have a brother who lives in the Western Mother Kingdom of Kunlun. There are only women in the Western Mother Kingdom, and there are no men. There's a Zimu River in the country, which is nurtured by the Tying Chi. If you eat it, you'll feel abdominal pain and fetus. There's always a counter to everything in the world. The Western Mother Kingdom has a Mount Jeong, and there's a hole in the mountain. In the hole, there's a spring of childbirth that can transform the fetal chi. The Western Mother Kingdom has the protection of the Almighty, and they have some relations with the Western Mother Kingdom in the sky. Even though my brother, true immortal Ru-Yi, begged me a few times to help him occupy Mount Jeong, so that he can be worshipped by the Western Mother Kingdom who are about to give birth, I didn't allow it. Now that you're in trouble, I'll definitely get the spring of childbirth, so that you can transform the fetal chi." Chapter 931. The few Demon Kings felt that it was a good idea and requested Bull Demon King to head to the Western Mother Kingdom to look for immortal Ru-Yi so that they could conquer the spring of childbirth in Mount Jeong. Even if they could not conquer it, they had to obtain the spring water to dissolve the chi in Rock Demon King's womb. Because of this, they were very anxious. Rock Demon King looked like he was about to give birth in less than half a day. Among the Demon Kings, the one with the fastest speed was the unlucky Rock Demon King. If the others were any slower, they would be in trouble. The journey to the Western Mother Kingdom was about a few thousand miles. If not for the likes of Monkey King and Rock Demon King, they would not be able to make it in time. Just as the Demon Kings were fretting, a small demon came in and reported, "Mahamayuri from the Western Heaven Mystical Mountain has arrived." Some Demon Kings who did not know what was going on were shocked. Why are there people from Mystical Mountain here? Are they here? Bull Demon King saw the Demon Kings discussing among themselves and quickly explained, "You may not know this, but Mahamayuri is a hero among the demons. There are many creatures in the world, including birds and beasts. Qilin is the leader of the beasts, and Phoenix is the leader of the birds. This Mahamayuri is the descendant of the Phoenix. When he was born, he was the most charismatic. He was a glutton and ate everyone within 45 miles. He was a famous demon king among the demons. After that, Buddharulai was also eaten by him when he was cultivating in Snowy Mountain. Ha ha ha, a hero does not boast about his past achievements." Suddenly, a loud laughter could be heard from outside the cave. The person walked into the cave and saw that he was wearing a green feather cape that was decorated with dozens of gemstones. He was extremely tall and his human form was extremely handsome. It was Mahamayuri. Although Mahamayuri was titled as Buddha Mother, he was a male demon. It was a coincidence that he met the current Rock Demon King. When Mahamayuri saw Bull Demon King, he cupped his fists and smiled. "In the past, I did not know the immensity of heaven and earth and swallowed Buddha Rulai. It was only because of his mercy that I managed to escape. now that I am being worshipped and ordered around by others in Mystical Mountain, it is not a glorious thing. Who in the world knows me and who doesn't know you, the great sage who pacifies heavens, Bull Demon King? If we're talking about a hero among demons, it's definitely you, Bull Demon King. Although Mahamayuri had an awkward background as he was from the Spirited Mountain, it was still all right for the demons to flatter each other. When it came to the deities and saints of the Spirited Mountain in the heavenly court, they were the ones with the most face. Now, the demons were like a group of mountain bandits. When they talked about the joys of being officials, of course they would belittle them verbally, but in their hearts they were jealous and hateful. Now, there was really a fellow Taoist who had mixed in with the immortals and returned to his hometown in glory. If it was a little more arrogant, it might be able to make these country bumpkins have a common enemy and make it look bad. However, Mahamayuri was indeed a person who knew how to conduct himself. He was an anomaly, yet he was able to make a name for himself in the Spirited Mountain system. Naturally, he was already very slippery. After a round of flattery, not only did the Bull Demon King gain face, but he also gained the face of the envious Demon Kings. Naturally, it would be like a hero among the heroes, and everyone would have to give him some face. Therefore, there was a Buddha Mother Mahamayuri on one side, and a Phoenix Peacock King on the other. It was a beautiful and harmonious scene. On one hand, Peacock King was a noble who had mixed in with the Spirited Mountain system and had the title of Buddha Mother. On the other hand, he was a descendant of the Phoenix. Among the Demon Kings, he was considered an orthodox and extremely noble figure. At least among the Demon Kings who had turned into demons, they could not help but feel inferior when they saw him. It was as if they had seen half of their master, and they were naturally a little short of breath. After Mahamayuri saw Rock Demon King, he immediately frowned and pondered. After a long time, he said, "Brother Rock is my close friend. Among everyone here, my escape technique is the fastest. Logically speaking, I should bear the responsibility for this matter. However, I can't bear it. My mother was born with twins. One is my peacock, and the other is my brother, Rock. Therefore, when I saw Brother Rock, I felt close to him. Although it was a freak accident, it is still my race's bloodline." When Rock Demon King heard this, he almost cried. He shouted, "Brother, if this evil fetus is born, how am I going to live in the future?" Mahamayuri hesitated and said, "Why don't you recognize him under my name and be my god brother?" Rock Demon King was on the verge of tears and shouted, "Brother, just take me. Quickly give birth to this evil fetus. Don't let it disgrace my reputation." Mahamayuri held Rock Demon King's hand and sighed, "I know my brother's pain the best. In the past, when Gautama Buddha cut open my back and gave me the title of Buddha Mother, how am I compared to you? Your evil fetus can be given birth, but my evil fetus still wants to kill his mother. When I came to Spirited Mountain, I saw my enemy sitting on the lotus platform. She said that she was Buddha Mother, but she was no different from a servant. How could I not feel aggrieved? If you still insist on going your own way, then I will get the fallen embryo spring for you." Rock Demon King knelt on the ground and said, "Thank you, brother." Peacock Demon King immediately prepared to set off. Before he left, he said, "I came to see all the heroes, not only to participate in the grand event, but also to inform everyone of a major event that happened in the three realms." Bull Demon King looked around and said solemnly, "Peacock King, please speak." Everyone knows that Taishang Laojun reincarnated into the mortal world and took the form of Laozi to travel to the west. However, he provoked the cult leader from beyond the heavens and traveled with him. The cult leader, Immeasurable Heavenly Lord, accepted the demon monkey from Ao Lai Nation, the Monkey King, as his disciple. On the way to the west, the monkey caused havoc in the divine court of Mount Tai and Ling Shao Palace. In order to keep the peace, the Jade Emperor conferred him the title of Heaven's equal Demon Emperor. This was the reason why everyone was dissatisfied and wanted to rebel against the Demon Emperor. Peacock King slowly explained the cause of the demon gathering. Bull Demon King nodded. Peacock King's knowledge is correct. It was because of the immorality of the Monkey King that we rebelled against him. Peacock King continued. Then do you know that the cult leader from beyond the heavens has a Sambhogakaya? He is a demon among demons, a demon that has never been heard of in the three realms? This demon and the immeasurable cult leader are separated into good and evil. This is because as the Tao rises 1 foot, the demon rises 10. No matter how powerful the immeasurable heavenly Lord is, his Sambhogakaya is 100 times more powerful than him. Bull Demon King and the other demons were shocked. They looked at each other and said, "There is such a thing? That immeasurable heavenly Lord is already lawless enough to teach a Monkey King. There is actually a Sambhogakaya that is stronger than him? Doesn't that mean there are millions and millions of Monkey King?" Thinking of this, Bull Demon King couldn't help but shiver. One Monkey King was already incredible. Now that there was another ancestor of the Monkey King, would the three realms be thrown into chaos? Mahamayuri said seriously. A few days ago, the 4 bodhisattvas of Mount Lingshan, Manjushri, Samantabhadra, and Ksitigarbha had a gamble with the immeasurable heavenly Lord. However, they accidentally attracted the attention of the immeasurable heavenly Lord. He cast his gaze down from beyond the heavens and turned it into Brahman. It almost overturned the three realms and overturned the universe, turning everything in this world into a dream of Brahman. Such a shocking matter naturally attracted the Buddha. A few days ago, the Buddha had already reincarnated as the Prince of Sindhu Siddhartha. The Arhats and ancient Buddhas of Mount Lingshan also followed him and reincarnated. Only the Bodhisattvas and Buddhas were left to guard Mount Lingshan. After the Brahman from beyond the heavens descended, even the reincarnated Buddha, Siddhartha, had no choice but to go beyond the heavens to fight against the Brahman. Just the day before yesterday, the leader of the ancient Buddhas, Bodhisattva Kinara, went against the warning of the Buddha's last words and went to the heavens to see the Buddhas. However, he didn't expect to see the Brahman. Thus, he fell into the devil and changed his name to Wutian. He led the ancient Pita Buddhas to rebel, attacked Mount Lingshan, and killed all the Buddhas. That's why I was left outside of Mount Lingshan, not daring to return to that troublesome place. The Tathagata Buddha actually died? This Wutian is a real man. If we help Wutian and attack Mount Lingshan, we can all become Buddhas. The news suddenly came crashing down like a storm, shocking the group of demon kings. After regaining their senses, the short-sighted demon kings were all breathing rapidly and their limbs were weak. Their minds were only filled with the scenes of looting and killing at Mount Lingshan. Only the Bull Demon King and a few other demon kings, who were still relatively clear-headed, could deeply consider such earth-shattering news and the turmoil that would be triggered in the three realms. Before they could sort out the situation, a demon soldier came to reporting to all the kings, "The heavenly court has sent news that the Buddha of Mount Lingshan has come to ask the Jade Emperor to issue a decree to borrow the heaven-equaling Demon Emperor to pacify Mount Lingshan and stop the Luo Demon King's rebellion. The Jade Emperor has already agreed and will issue the decree immediately." Chapter 932. The Buddhas of Spirited Mountain are dreaming. They want to make me the scapegoat. Wukong, who was at the side, heard everything clearly and couldn't help but sneer. This kind of unlucky thing that could be figured out by just using his brain was definitely his teacher playing tricks behind the scenes. How could the Jade Emperor dare to find him to take the blame? Could it be that the Jade Emperor's wings had hardened after a few days of not giving him any trouble? Goku scratched his ears and cheeks. He pondered for a while and decided to explore the depth of the water first. If it was really like what the Peacock King said, that it wasn't his teacher who did it, but the demonic sense, then who knew how deep the water was? With his teacher's unfathomable foundation, he might be able to drown the Emperor equal to heaven. Wukong knew his grandmaster very well, so he immediately decided to test him. If the waters were too deep, then the Jade Emperor could go to whoever he wanted. I, old son, would not listen to him and would not give him face. Also, the Zimu River is a good thing. This clone will follow Mahamayuri and find a chance to swap the childbirth spring for him. I want to see what the pregnant rock demon king will give birth to after drinking the Zimu River. With a single thought from the hair body, the main body rose into the air. The quantum spiritual light erratic cloud moved, and it flew toward the western heaven's spiritual mountain. The spirited mountain was an incredible place. The great lightning tune temple was magnificent and majestic. It stood tall on Mount Meru, towering above the clouds. It was surrounded by thousands of beautiful peaks, strange rocks, and countless pagodas. The Buddha's blood scriptures on the cliffs shone brightly. The Dharma gate of the great thunderclap temple was wide open. There were often bhikkhus and bhikkhunis sitting on the ground, praying outside the temple. Dharma protector Jialan and glaring Vajra stood on the left and right. Buddhas and bodhisattvas were chanting Sanskrit in the vast and magnificent temple, echoing throughout the Sumeru Dharma realm. The world-honored one was sitting in the main hall, surrounded by 4 people, offering reverence, admiration, and sitting cross-legged. He entered the samadhi state of boundless righteousness, his body and mind unmoved. At that time in the great thunderclap temple, there were bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, upasai, upoi, heavenly dragon, yaksha, kyankapa, asura, garuda, Kanara, Mahabharaja, man-inhuman, the little kings, the Chakravarti saint king, and the common people. They were all lined up in order, putting their palms together in delight, listening to the profound truth of the Venerable Buddha's mantra. At that time, the heavenly rain mandala flower, the Maha Mandala flower, the red spider lily, the Maha Mandala flower, the loose Buddha and the masses. In the Buddha world there were 6 types of tremors. They were immeasurably bright, immeasurably pure, immeasurably wondrous, and the Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and all living beings praised Tathagata. However, when the Monkey King stepped onto the pure land of Spirited Mountain, he didn't see the immeasurably bright praise. The mandala flower, red spider lily, and Maha Mandala flower that always shrouded the sky above the great thunderclap temple had already withered and dispersed. The Monkey King stepped on the stairs of the great thunderclap temple, and the red, white, and golden petals of the mandala flower and the mandala flower were scattered around his feet. It reminded one of the grand occasion of the heavenly rain mandala flower when the Venerable Buddha was preaching. The Monkey King used his hand to pluck a petal from the petals that were swirling around in the wind. The faint golden petal laid on the palm of the Monkey King, leaving a faint golden mark on the rough monkey claw. The Monkey King picked up the mandala flower petal and felt it was slightly moist. He rubbed it with his hand, and the warm golden blood dripped onto his fingers, revealing the original red color of the petal. So, the blood of the Buddha is golden in color? The Monkey King sighed faintly. He lifted his head and saw the golden mandala flower being blown by the wind like rain. A fragrance wafted into his nose, but it wasn't the heavenly sandalwood incense or the remaining incense used to worship the Buddhas. Instead, it was the heavenly fragrance and tranquil fragrance. The blood of the Buddhas was like golden-colored glass, pure and unhindered, which was why the fragrance could be produced. This fragrance was the Buddha's fragrance, a wondrous fragrance, a dharmic incense. It couldn't be emitted unless a Buddha was lit. There were also the golden bricks and colored glass on the ground, and the golden treasures on the stairs. They weren't made of gold, but stained with the blood of the Buddha. The melodious music of the Spirited Mountain's fairies seemed to still be ringing in his ears, but when he listened to it again, it seemed to be an echo of the past. The huge thunderclap temple was dead silent, and only the sound of the mandala flower rubbing against the ground could be heard. The sky was dusky, and it was filled with inauspiciousness. Wukong walked up the stairs. High up in the Great Lane Temple, there seemed to be the figures of Buddhas swaying. The Great Lane Temple was still golden and dazzling, dignified and solemn. Even if the dim light from the sky shone here, it would reflect a golden brilliance. The great Lane Temple didn't lose its color in the slightest. But in the eyes of the Monkey King, the sky and earth were like blood-red murderous intent. It was rare for it to have a solemn expression on its face, and it restrained its monkey nature as it walked up the stairs. 3,000 steps passed in the blink of an eye, but it was enough to ascend the Mount Meru that was billions of zhang tall. The mysteries within were indescribable. Just when the Monkey King stepped on the last step, it saw an ugly Buddha with an angry look on his face. The Buddha raised the staff in his hand and glared at the Monkey King. "Skunda!" The Monkey King exclaimed in shock. Its expression was solemn. The Monkey King was lawless. Ever since he caused havoc in the heavenly river, there weren't many deities in the three realms that were worthy of his attention. This guardian deity was one of them, and he was one of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain. His martial arts skills were extremely high, and he was comparable to the spirit officer Wang. But now, he had died here. So the Skunda Bodhisattva has also perished? The Monkey King was horrified. What exactly happened in this spirited mountain? Although the Skunda Bodhisattva was still glaring at it, the Monkey King could tell that he was already dead. His soul had returned a long time ago, and all that was left of him was his remnant consciousness. It reflected in the void, and it created a strange and dangerous atmosphere. It was the remnant consciousness of the Skunda Bodhisattva after his death. But for someone as powerful as the Monkey King, even if the Skunda Bodhisattva was still alive, the Monkey King would just laugh it off, let alone the remnant consciousness. But the Monkey King could see something from the remnant consciousness. Through the eyes of the dead Skunda Bodhisattva, the Monkey King saw an indescribable black shadow coming towards him. The Skunda Bodhisattva in the remnant consciousness could only let out an angry roar before he died in the blink of an eye. He was killed by that person. He had no strength to fight back. Until now, the remnant consciousness was still roaring, sighed Jian, since the Skunda Bodhisattva is here. Then where is the Sangha Bodhisattva? The Monkey King took another 10 steps forward, and indeed saw another guardian bodhisattva who was on par with the Skunda Bodhisattva, the Sangha Bodhisattva. Not only was there the Sangha Bodhisattva, but there were also Main, Sanskrit, Heavenly Drum, Tanmiao, Tanmei, Mo Miao, Lei-in, Shitsi, Miao Tan, Fan Xiang, Human Voice, Buddha Slave, Song De, Vim Mu, Miao Yen, Che Ting, Che Shi, and the rest of the Sangha Bodhisattva. All of them had died in battle at the entrance of the great Lane Monastery. The shadows that the Monkey King saw at the bottom of the stairs were their shadows. The main gate of the great Lane Temple was tightly shut. Wukong stood in front of the gate and looked at the guardian Sangha, who had either died without a complete corpse, or had died of exhaustion. Wukong then looked at the Sangha Bodhisattva, who had a peaceful and lifelike face. He could completely imagine that after that person killed Skunda, the Sangha Bodhisattva came to stop him and was also killed by that person.